Hello everybody and welcome to the BSR SIM3D MX5 Trophy Round 6 here at Silverstone National. No, Dan Handover doesn't have a cold, and no, you're not thinking about a year ago. My name is Jack Oliphant and I am commentating alongside Ed May this evening. Ed, how the devil are you?
Thank you very much, Jack, and I'm really looking forward to this. The VSR SIM3D MX5 Trophy goes back in time to the old Silverstone National Circuit, doesn't it? Off of the back of an exciting race at the very modern and new and fresh Imola circuit, recently used in the Formula One series, of course. Back with MX5, saw some great moves. There was some really exciting racing. I mean, Dave Chapman passing around the outside through the final corner to take the first race victory. Oh, that was definitely something. And well, I mean, we're going to be seeing a lot more exciting action here in Silverstone. Obviously, going into this round, Casper had a bit of a job to do, but he's managed to extend his championship lead just a touch over James Clark, the Swift Cooper Esports driver. Adam McNally is tied for second place, though. So both drivers on 1,231 points, just 152 points shy of Casper Decor in the pro class. Having a look at the pro-ams, it's as close as it usually ever is. 31 points at this early stage, separating the two SimTech pro drivers. Craig Cockrell just leading the field in the pro-am class ahead of Sam Smith. And then, of course, you've got Harvey Moss, who's actually been recently bumped up into the pro-am class. Was an am driver, but was performing so well in this early stage of the championship that he's been moved up and has absolutely taken like it to a duck to water, and actually got driver of the round last time out because of how well he's adapted to this higher level of competition. Then going down to the AMs, there's a decent fight brewing between Glenn Humberston, who leads the field, ahead of the two SimTech drivers as well, Simon Robson and Ashley Stimpson. Keep your eyes on that AM fight as well. Fiona Siddons had a much better showing as well last week to get her championship back on track following some rather shaky starts to the season in the opening few rounds. But the drivers, Jack, they're now making their way onto the circuit for qualifying, a short lap around this Silverstone circuit, the home of British motorsport that's seen a few revamps, but we go back in time now.
I know, with all these Abbey Santander style, advertising around the place, it whiffs of McLaren 2008, doesn't it?
Oh.
It's certainly bringing those sort of vibes for me here, and I'm very much looking forward to this. Obviously, as a few people will know, I used to be on the BSR commentary with you, Ed, didn't I? But a lot of drivers have changed since then. A lot of people came and went in our time. It looked like a few of them are back. But everybody has a brand new livery, and I have to say, it's all looking very smart and sharp as well. So, yeah, good times to be had for sure this evening. I understand you're still on 4 races. It's still a spinning wheel reverse grid. So it all has the hallmarks of an excellent evening's racing.
Yes, it does. And we're going to actually go on board now with Glenn Humberston just to talk you through a lap of this Silverstone circuit. So coming across the start-finish line now into, well, I've got through Woodcut, now coming across the start finish line, making your way into Cops. You've got a break just at the end of the boards on the right hand side there. Pitch it in nicely, carry the speed through if you can, which you can see Glenn Humberston is able to do. Don't run too wide because it's very slidey on the Astra and also will invalidate your lap time in qualifying. Then pitch over to the left hand side through Maggots onto the brakes, pitching it through. There's a bump on the inside, which is where you need to be apexing slightly too early on the turn from Glenn Humberston. Means he's got a compromised run down the club straight and into Brooklands and Luffield. Crucial area of the circuit where a lot of drivers can make or break their lap time here. Brake nice and hard, use all of the road on the way in. Try and find the apex. He gets on the throttle on turn in, which again isn't the optimal line. Has to slow it down, holding it in second gear. Some drivers opt to get into first to get a little bit more rotation, higher revs rather, to accelerate faster as well. Through Luffield and now into Woodcut. A little bit of a scrappy lap from Glenn Humberston, whereas up at the front of the field, Jason Cooper has just gone faster. We'll see Glenn Humberston come across the line. Is there an improvement coming through? No, there isn't. Stays 21st. But up towards the front of the field, Jason Cooper. Oh, that's not Jason Cooper. I saw Cooper. I thought it was Jason. No, it's not. It's his brother Luke.
It is indeed. So Luke Cooper going through. Lars Fischer as well in second place. Tom Griffiths in third. Tom Griffiths with the quickest Sector 1 of anybody. But there's not much between them, to be honest. There's very little, minimum room for error, shall we say. Luke Cooper with the purple Sector 3. Not entirely sure who's purpling Sector 2 so far, but I can tell you that Adam Shepherd moves his way up into fourth place. A name that I do remember, as James Clark goes into second place. There he goes, and he pips that that purple Sector 3 ahead of Luke Cooper, as well as there's cones flying everywhere and MX5s flying everywhere through the first corner. This is only qualifying, remember, but there is so many cars out on circuit with such a short circuit as well. It's going to be a little bit congested. A lot of traffic to deal with, but a lot of slipstream available to the drivers who can nail it.
Here you can see one of the Excite cars just at the front of this train. I think that to be Adam McNally. Just to come into Brooklands and Luffield. So, of course, you don't want to slow down your teammates. They want to hold each other up as Casper de Court now has gone fastest. And in Jason Cooper's absence, he missed the last 2 rounds. Casper de Court has really came on strong. In fact, pretty much all of the 5-star motorsport drivers have kind of picked up the slack. And you can see them all out on the track together. You've got Casper de Court, you've got Lars Fischer, and, of course, Jason Cooper. They've all been performing very well indeed. Just seeing in the middle of this fight, or this train, Casper is in the number 5. Hold a tight line just up behind Lars Fischer, almost bumping him through Luffield. Be careful not to have any contact. That will invalidate both your lap time and the lap time of the driver you are trying to race with. And that wonderful camera angle that blocks our shot as the cars come through Woodcote and across the line. Jason Cooper needs to improve on his qualifying position. Oh, doesn't he just? Up to pole position there by nearly 2 tenths of a second, which on a 1 minute lap time is a pretty strong showing.
Yeah, I saw some purple Sector 2 coming in hot with him, and I thought, you know what, he's in the perfect placement here for the slipstream as well. About half a second behind his teammates. That allows you not to have to lift or worry about getting into the braking zone of the apex, does it? You can just keep it as flat out as you can possibly can. Adam Shepherd, purple Sector 1 in the Tegiwa Motorsport colours. Green Sector 2, and he's about to come across the line. Does he have the tow to help him across the line in Sector 3? The Sector 3 might be down, but it might still be enough to lift him towards the top end of the field. It's only good enough for 7th, however. That is not as strong as he was hoping, considering his first 2 sectors were, if anything, stronger than Jason Cooper's. He was 3 tenths down through Sector 1. Adam McKitchenson, it says purple over the bottom of the screen. It isn't. I'm not sure where he got into, but it's in fact, it's 23rd at the moment. We have about 24 drivers out there who have currently sort of set a lap time. There is plenty more out there, though, who haven't even tried to set a lap time yet. Ed, I don't know if there's a lot of penalties to be given out, or whether these drivers are just waiting for the end of the session to hope that some of the drivers come in. It's not as busy, but I'd say there's about 10 drivers who haven't yet taken to the circuit.
Yeah, there are quite a few drivers. Obviously, the way that the system works is that drivers that cause incidents have to start from either pit lane in certain races usually 2, 3 and 4 depending on how severe the incident was, but then also the minimum penalty the driver could serve is an exclusion from qualifying, means that they can't take part in the qualifying session but can still form up on the grid just towards the back of the field, which can put a dampener on some people's nights. They can get caught up in incidents again and can cause a bit of a vicious spiral. Just going to see I was coming across the line. Mitchkinson cross the line into 22nd place. That was definitely a big improvement from the 666. Just looking though, drivers have come into the pits now at the midway point of the session, like we've seen in Donington Park just a week ago. Well, you're going to be expecting for some drivers to really try and, I guess, find the limits and see what they can do, see what comes through on a fresh set of boots. You do get through the optimum tyre performance quite quickly. You wouldn't expect it, but these cars do lean on the tyre very heavily through the corners. They haven't got any downforce to help alleviate that. I'll follow Dave Chapman now on an outlap and see where he can improve, because he's inside the top 10 only just, but we're definitely looking to try and get up inside, maybe challenge for that front row grid spot. Jason Cooper at the moment fastest in the session though. Michael Seal, another driver looking to try and challenge, get inside that top 10. Very strong last week, and that strength continues to shine through. Michael Seal goes 5th fastest.
Yeah, he was looking very strong at his sector times. I thought, you know what, this could be something special for Michael. And in fact, there he goes, into 5th place. Another thing Michael Seal's done that's very special is my MX5 livery on iRacing. I don't use it enough these days, but a talented livery designer is Michael Seal. Adam Shepherd's gone purple, sector 1. This could be a quick one. He only has to find 0.003 of a second to just get into 7th place, with Nick Clibbins currently in the pit lane. He just needs to try and eke out a decent lap in Sector 2, and he's gone faster than he's ever gone before in Sector 2. So really strong showing here by Adam Shepherd. Not surprising, he's a driver that I do recognise from back in the day, and he always used to dominate as well in the last sort of season that I covered. Adam Shepherd was definitely the standout performer. So let's see what he can crack up to in Sector 3. I can tell you what he cracks up to. He cracks into a cold one as he enters the pit.
Yeah, Adam Shepherd aborting that lap coming into the pits, maybe opting for one final attempt, get some fresh tyres on, and absolutely go for it as well, aiming to get some clear track space. But like we were mentioning last week, Adam Shepherd, now a Civic Cup champion, so he's definitely showing he's very handy behind the wheel of a real life, as well as a virtual one in these MX5s. Looking at Ryan Main now, as he comes across the line, doesn't improve, but he did have to overtake some back marker traffic. Still good through the first corner though, so might not be all over for Ryan. Again, 4 minutes still to go in this qualifying session, and anyone could theoretically challenge Jason Cooper. We've not seen times creep into the 1 minute fours. I think that's what drivers will have to do now to try and best that 1 minute 5.026. There isn't much leeway up there. You can once again find Jason Cooper getting a nice amount of slipstream. The #1 last season's champion, who missed a couple of rounds, back now to try and defend that title.
Yeah, Jason Cooper, he's just gone a little bit quicker through Sector 1, got the draft assistance from his teammate there, Casper de Court as well. I don't think it's a quicker Sector 2, it's about a 10th off potentially, so maybe this isn't going to be an improvement, and now he hasn't got the slipstream out of the final corner, it's going to be a little bit difficult to improve. I can tell you that Dave Chapman has gone quicker in Sector 1 and 2, so keep an eye on the times as Chapman comes across. There we go, jumps into 6th position. Jason Cooper, didn't improve on his lap time, so we're starting to see some green sectors flitter up. We went through a bit of a dry patch, shall we say, for about 4 minutes. It's about 4 laps, where we didn't see anything as drivers coming into the pits and putting on some new rubber. But now, Ed, the final 3 minutes, the final 3 laps, we're starting to see some pressure being put on the likes of Cooper, Casper de Court, Luke Cooper and James Clark. Not least of which is being applied by Michael Seal, who's currently in the pits as well. And if you're talking about I think it's Pro-Am, Craig Cockrell, 3rd in the Pro-Ams at the moment, but he's all the way down in 16th. A long way to have to make up to Michael Seal.
Yeah, definitely a long ways back for those drivers to try and catch up to Michael Seal. But another thing is that it's a long time to go in the session. Maybe those drivers haven't been able to get the favourable traffic, get through and find the space, maybe get a current slipstream off of as well. We saw that actually at Donington Park, where Andy McEwen left it very late in the day. Basically, his last flying lap of the session, improved all the way down from what I think was 12th place, maybe even something like 16th place, all the way up onto the front row right at the death. So is this going to be another time where Andy McEwen can come back through? He's currently sitting in 14th place. Same for Adam McNally, actually, who's a little ways down the order. Not where you'd be expecting the Excite Racing driver to be at this stage. Then again, this track is a bit of a weird one, not one that drivers race on too much now that we have the new and a more modern version of Silverstone on the iRacing service. This one's sort of fallen out of favour. Good to see it still getting used, still popular as ever in these MX5s and in the BSR camp, it seems. It's Liam Stimpson is getting a nice little bit of slipstream from his teammate just up the road. Could be enough to crack in maybe his top 3 spots in Pro-Am.
Yeah, well, that's what he's going to be gunning for, isn't it? As I said, we read out the top 5. It ends with Michael Seal on the left-hand side of your screen. Liam Stimpson currently 5th place in the Pro-Am. So that just goes to show how spread out it really can be. And to be honest, Ed, I don't think I've ever driven this version of the Silverstone National Circuit. I don't know if it's a little bit slippery or sort of what characteristics make it very different. But one thing's for sure, the apex is still in the right place, and Liam Stimpson hasn't been able to find it just then. Jason Cooper, purple sector 1. And I tell you what, Ed, this is a flyer because he's just made a slight mistake as he got at the back end of Chapman, which is a shame because he was the only driver so far in this session to crack the 18s in sector 1. Everybody else is doing 19.0 something. Jason Cooper an 18.98, Casper de Court a 19.01, James Clark a 19 dead, about as close as you can get it. So the 3 drivers all currently in the top 4. Luke Cooper's in the pits. It's not going to be his day on pole position, but we could see a change for pole as Jason Cooper's lap, I think, has been slightly damaged by being hunkered so closely up to Dave Chapman. Let's have a look. Sector 2 hasn't been quick. Dave Chapman gets out of the way as the checkered flag drops. James Clark is good enough to go into second, but not good enough to topple Jason Cooper, who didn't need any more purple sectors to maintain his pole position. Casper de Court has come across the line as well. He's been picked down into 3rd place. Luke Cooper and Michael Seal both in the pit lane. Nobody else is improving. So by the looks of it, James Cooper will be on pole position for race number 1.
Yeah, also, just having a look through the field and comparing Jason Cooper's lap time was a 1 minute 5.026. We go all the way down to the first minute in the 1 minute 6s, 1 minute 6.09, Liam Simpson. So it's basically all the way from Jason Cooper in first down to, what's that, 19th place, nearly 20 cars separated by 1 second, which boggles the mind. That is so close. And while, yes, the lap time is only 1 minute, that's still essentially nothing. Look, you can see it illustrated perfectly on the side of the screen. Essentially, 20 cars separated by 1 second. So that bodes well for the racing. When all the cars are going to be hunkered together in the draft, you could find the whole field slipstreaming one another.
Yeah, which is exactly what we come to see at BSR MX5, isn't it? I mean, if they weren't slipstreaming each other, I'd be slightly disappointed that I jumped on the broadcast, to be honest. Because, yeah, as you said, it doesn't matter what you race around Silverstone National, that's pretty much the racing you're guaranteed. And those sort of lap times, you'll see that in whatever motorsport you see, but specifically MX5 racing is really special for that kind of gaps. So we're about to get into race number 1, and I tell you what, Ed, walk us through it.
Yes, I will be very happy to. Jason Cooper starts from pole position for 5-Star Motorsport with James Clark, teammate of last year's, alongside him on the front row of the grid. Casper de Court, the other 5-Star Motorsport driver, inside the top 3, starts on the 2nd row in 3rd place, ahead of Luke Cooper. Michael Seal, first of the Pro-Ams, starting with very good effort for the Bench Up Racing driver, ahead of Lars Fischer, rounds out that very impressive qualifying session from 5-Star Motorsport. Then we come time to Dave Chapman in 7th, Tom Griffiths 8th, with Nick Clemens and Adam Shepherd rounding out the top 10. Harley Moss starts 11th, ahead of Andy McCune. Was able to improve late on, only up into 12th place, but he still qualifies ahead of Ashley Stimpson, first of the AM drivers now in the Triple 8 Civic Pro-Am car. Adam Nally starts in 14th place, ahead of James Neve, Craig Cockrell, Andy Thompson, James McRitchie, Liam Stimpson, Simon Robson, Craig Shield, Ryan Main, Adam Mitchkinston and Glenn Humberston. We come all the way down to drivers that weren't able to set qualifying times behind Router Campana. We have Adam Belmont, Lee Holmes, Craig McDonald, Liam Silkston, Jane Piggott, Brian Stewart, Mark Oliver, and Fiona Siddons, who rounds out the 33 cars on this Silverstone grid. And you can see it's a very strange lineup, isn't it? They're all the way curving back through right-hander. Means that sometimes when you're having to accelerate and also turning the wheel just slightly means that you're at a disadvantage, starting a little bit further back perhaps, but we'll find out if that is the case as the green flag is about to wave. Not too long now for Jason Cooper to try and hold on into Copse. He's on the slightly dirtier side of the track. You can see there the inside line means he can cover off into Copse, but could be left a sitting duck should James Clark get off to a flyer. Not long now. You can see the cars getting ready, the lights coming on. And the first race of the evening is about to get underway here in Silverstone. The 6th round is go here, and Jason Cooper gets away very well indeed. Immediately comes onto the grippier side and covers off James Clark, who himself is under pressure now as Casper de Court goes down the inside into Copse. First lap, first corner. Casper de Court takes 2nd place. Luke Cooper as well, trying to find a way past his teammate as James Clark has been somewhat hung out to dry here. Watch out for Michael Seal as well. He's having to battle side by side with Lars Fischer. Casper Court, second place. Luke Cooper, James Clark battling in behind Michael Seal down the inside, holding firm against Lars Fischer, retains 5th place as Luke Cooper gets ahead of James Clark. So a nightmare start for James, dropping 2 places already. We can see Dave Chapman trying to put a move on Michael Seal now, coming down into Brooklands and Luffield for the first time this evening. Hard on the brakes. They're making it 3 wide. Lars Fischer holding the inside line. You can see Dave Chapman. He tried to go around the outside, tried something smart, didn't quite pay off. Tom Griffiths, great opportunistic driving, saw a gap, went for it, swept around the outside of Dave Chapman through Luffield, and is now up into 7th place. So lots of moving and shaking on this first lap here.
Yeah, so big people who have changed to the top, say 10. James Clark losing 2 positions, going from 2nd into 4th. Lars Fischer gaining 1 on Michael Seal. Everybody's basically only gained 1 or potentially 2. Jason Cooper, however, is leading the way and has been since the start. Our pole position man has maintained his lead in the beginning of this race. But if you look at 13th, 14th, 15th, Adam McNally, Ashley Simpson, James Neve, it's basically anybody's guess as well. Really close racing here, but I would imagine likes of Casper de Court and Jason Cooper will be trying their best to work together potentially to try and get away from Luke Cooper and give an opportunity to maybe just run away with a 1-2, which is extremely rare here at Silverstone. Chapman, I think, has been hung out to dry somewhat, and he misses the apex as a number of drivers slot up the inside of him, including Andy McEwen into the top 10, Nicholas Clibbins and Adam Shepherd all getting past Dave Chapman, and I think that was maybe something to do with Tom Griffiths. I'll try and catch a replay later on if I can, but we're going to have to shoot back to the front of the field because Jason Cooper is under an awful lot of pressure from Casper de Court.
Yeah, you said they might start to work together. I'm not so sure. Casper de Court comes into this as the championship leader, trying to take away the crown from Jason this season, so they might not be too friendly. They might not be working together. We shall see, though. The race is still young. They could work together and then all kick off right towards the end. Try and get a gap to Luke Cooper, if at all possible. But trying to do something and actually doing something is very different, as I'm sure you're very well aware. You can do something with the best of intentions, Jack, but just sometimes the race doesn't quite go your way. Once more, Jason Cooper feeling the pressure somewhat from Casper de Court. As further back, Dave Chapman has got through on Andy McEwen. Andy tries a cut back going around the outside. Could leave him vulnerable for Harley Moss, as there's been contact in the background. I think Cockrell, Thompson, Delmont maybe got involved. Let's have a look through here. Oh no, James Neve involved. And I think that's Stewart as well. Brian Stewart with huge damage. Let's have a look. Coming into Brooklands and Luffield. You can see Craig McDonald squeezed on the inside. Oh, and then there's just a coming together between Brian Stewart and I think that was the 194 of Liam Silverstone.
Yeah, my timing tower just going mental there for a second. I thought we were under pressure for a change of the race lead, but as Lars Fischer is actually trying to overtake Michael Seal, has been left out to dry. And this is the problem when you're in a race with about 55 of the cars on track and all training each other. If you don't quite hit, then you are ended up a little bit open, aren't you? Well, basically, you're left open to for an overtaking manoeuvre. In the end, he has got past Michael Seal, who's had to concede to Tom Griffiths, who's going for the apex. Oh, I thought there was going to be a turn in there, which would have been very inadvisable. As Griffiths versus Seal carries on for another couple of corners with Adam Shepherd just behind for good company as well. Fischer, I think Griffiths, sorry, is just about got ahead. Yep, and there we go. Seal has to blend back in, so Seal going from 5th down to 7th in the space of a single corner.
Yeah, so Tom Griffiths, he's been having a very good turn of pace, up 2 positions so far this race, and looks likely to try and snatch another as McEwen and Chapman. No love lost between these two. Good friends off the track, and Andy McEwen puts one on Dave, but Dave, with a brilliant cutback, is going to go for it. They're going to go side by side, all the way down the back straight, coming into Brooklands and Luffield, and I think it is going to be Dave Chapman to try and sweep around the outside and then hold the inside line through the corner, but can he do it on Andy? No, Andy comes across the nose. Chapman concedes position, but it was a good bit of smart driving by Dave just to see if there was a way through to try the cutback. just that McEwen's drive out of the corner was that much stronger as, oh my word, there's a lot of movement and shaking going on in behind these pair. And that's what's happened. A car park has formed midway through Brooklands and Luffield.
Yeah, so Liam Simpson, one of the drivers involved there, and I think along with Ryan Main and Craig Schill, just going into Brooklands and Luffield, the BRDC Grandstand will have got a fantastic view of this as Simpson gets sent round. Quite a few cars avoid, but there's Ryan Main coming in, and I think Craig Schill as well, and Craig McDonald, and quite a few unfortunate casualties from that one. And that's just the way, isn't it, Ed? Because if you fly down towards Brooklands and Luffield, it is a bit of a picture in and hope, isn't it? You want to try and claim the apex, but it's a very quick apex in these MX5s. You don't want to drop the speed down at all, and if there's a driver parked sideways on the racing line, very little you can do to avoid it. Yeah,
I would want to see actually again, maybe later on in the races, we've got this great fight that on board from Ryan Main coming through, because there, like you say, was nothing he could have done. He had a car around his outside, couldn't brake to the right to avoid the car, and by slowing down, you can see here, right, Ryan Main is going side by side with Shane Piggott, goes on the inside line. You can see it unfolding, thinks the car's going to back off a bit. He can't move to the right, which is what you would do in that situation to try and avoid contact, because there's already a car there. So the only thing Ryan Main can do is just slam on the brakes, hope he slows down enough and turns out of it. But there's just no way that the car is going to do that for him, and unfortunately, he gets caught up as an innocent bystander.
Yeah, he does indeed. Speaking of innocent bystanders, I don't think Luke Cooper's really got the pace to live with these two at the front, has he? I mean, realistically, there's only half a second in it, but Ed, half a second is pretty massive around here at the Silverstone, isn't it? And unfortunately, he's got James Clark just a touch closer. Jason Cooper, Casper de Court. Casper is right on the gearbox. If we don't see him try and make a move into this corner, I think we know the plan here. And there we go. He backs out. That is very obvious what these two are trying to do, isn't it?
Yeah, they are bump drafting each other, and actually there was a tap of the brakes from Casper de Court on the way into the corner, just to get a little bit further away and give Jason Cooper a bit of space into the braking zone. So I think they are working together, trying to rake the toe before battling on the final lap. But as soon as they do start to battle, they hemorrhage a load of time, as we find Delmont trying to put a move on James McRitchie. He was slow coming out of the corner. They do go side by side. You can just about see it as they come across the line. Not the best camera angles here, but fortunately, there's nothing we can do. Blame iRacing, not us. Again, lovely camera angles. They come now into Cups. Oh, and there's a squeeze. There's the smallest of touches. They both keep it going. Great racing between Cockrell and Delmont side by side. And I think, do you know what? Delmont's been able to take the position. Yes, he has. Great move there from Adam Delmont, braving it around the outside, getting a bump for good measure as Craig tries to put a move, pal, go for a cutback, but the Excite Racing car was hugging the apex nice and tightly as well. The chasing pack has closed down now to Casper de Court and Jason Cooper. So Cooper has found a bit of pace of his own while we come to this very exciting four-way fight for 10th place. Harley Moss, who's doing a brilliant job, we've got to say, yet again in Pro-Am colours. Start off the season as an Am driver. Now we'll finish the season as a Pro-Am, but might go into next season as a Pro.
Yeah, actually, the reason why I shot back to this is because Chapman versus McEwen was actually for top 10, but now Moss and McNally have gotten through. I think the other two may have just fallen over each other somewhat as McNally goes off the road just a touch. We're going to have a look at Harley Moss, the Pro-Am driver, as you were just mentioning before, mixing it right in the thick of all these pros as McEwen and Chapman go for a very wide line. Chapman gets a really good drive off the exit of the corner as well. Mid-corner pace was well up there as he hunkers up behind Adam McNally, and I think Chapman's going to have his nose at least ahead of Moss going down towards Brooklands and Luffield. McEwen trying to use that slipstream for good measure as well into the braking zone. He maybe even had a little bit too much overspeed. It looked like he could have flown into the back of Chapman, that just about holds off on the brake as he goes side by side with him and Moss. Chapman's gotten through nice and cleanly and is setting his sights on McNally as Moss holds that inside and I think holds the position just ahead of McEwen. So Chapman and McEwen have been separated as they go into the 10th minute, what will be probably about the 10th lap as well, 9th lap potentially. Jason Cooper, Casper de Court still leading, but this battle for the top 10, leave nothing to the imagination. This could be for the top spot of the podium.
And he trying that later apex, trying to drive out the corner nicely, but while all those drivers were battling, they've lost touch now. to this fight with Nick Clemens pulling up the rear in 9th place. You can see the gap now to 10th. So that fight somewhat dropped back. Chapman a little bit wide out of the corner, but still gets a good drive out. She shouldn't hold him up too badly. His cars are bumping actually just a little bit further in front, fighting for track position. Into Brooklands and Luffield into the final 4 minutes of racing here in this first race at Silverstone. Dave Chapman down the inside for 10th place. Adam McNally isn't able to fight back and hold on. He's looking maybe to hang it around the outside and get the inside, but Chapman carried so much speed through and held firm. So great move that from Dave Chapman. Shows how strong the slipstream is. There's a long way to go before he can go up to 9th place. So for now, the job for Chapman is to defend like nobody's business in these final few moments, while all the drivers in front start to squabble and maybe trip over one another. You can see Jason Cooper, Casper Court close together as Andy McEwen has just gotten ahead of Adam McNally here and is backing up these drivers just a little bit as they run in. Andy McEwen couple is onto the grass. He's held up here coming into Maggots, and that's going to slow him down on corner exit. Give some space as well to Dave Chapman. You can see the gap is nearly a second. And that's going to hurt him badly coming down into Brooklands.
Lars Fischer trying to get himself into the top 5 just ahead of Tom Griffiths. It's been impossible to see which battle to go for. It looked like for a long time that this battle for about top 9 positions were just measuring each other up. You weren't ever sure. They were always very close to each other, but you weren't ever sure if anybody was going to make a move, which is why we kept flitting back to that 5 at the top 10, which you can see is still going on. McNally and McEwen just swapping positions, but as we shoot forward, Lars Fischer making a move on Tom Griffiths. It potentially is the catalyst, Ed, for maybe some more aggressive moves going into the final couple of minutes, because of course we are on the 11th lap, or otherwise we are on the 12th and a half minute of the 15. Around the time when you start wanting to think about track position, isn't it? I know these drivers are, smarter than potentially me in a sim racing car, especially. They'll be thinking about, lifting off whilst they're drafting and all this sort of thing to try and have the correct track position going into the final lap. Do you think it's a case of we're going to see lunges, we're going to see overtakes coming in now, or do you reckon it will be a last lap spectacular finish? What would you go for, Ed?
You don't want to get left behind. If you see an opportunity to go for a move at this stage of the race, you go for it. You don't wait until the last lap. If it's there for the taking, you have to go for it, especially when you're in close pack battling like this, because those who don't fight can often find themselves getting left behind and taken advantage of. Like drivers, they're very good at smelling weakness. I think they're like a pair of hungry sharks or shoulder sharks. This is, isn't it? Up in front for the lead. Jason Cooper, Casper DeCourt, Luke Cooper, James Clark, Lars Fischer, Tom Griffiths, Michael Seal, Adam Shepherd, Nick Clemens, all slipstreaming one another for the lead of the race. Theoretically, should anything happen, any of these drivers could come through, but this is the break that the front two needed. A bit of contact to Luke Cooper up the rear, going through Maggot, and that spun him all the way around. Let's have a look coming into the corner. Is it two teammates coming together? I think it might have been. Oh my word. Luke Cooper just gets the smallest of touches. I'm not sure if there was netcode. It could have been netcode, but I don't know if the cars would have had contact if there wasn't netcode either. We'll have another look, just a final time, just to see, coming through slow-mo. There is a bit of netcode, but I still think the cars would have had contact nonetheless. But it's the smallest of taps, isn't it, on the back of Luke Cooper from James Clark. Two teammates coming together. That's not going to go down well in the Swift Cooper Esports camp. Look at these two, though, up in the front. Jason Cooper leading ahead of Casper DeCourt. What a return back to the championship this will be for Jason Cooper after 2 weeks away. Should he take this race victory? But Casper DeCourt, he's got no one behind him, no one to worry about challenging for this 1-2 on the final lap. I think team orders might have gone out the window here. Can Casper DeCourt snatch the race victory here? A little bit of a twitch on the exit, but there was the same run from Jason Cooper, and now the slipstream comes into effect. Nice and close in behind the rear bumper. You can see how defensive Jason Cooper is. There's no team orders. They are battling hard but fair into Brooklands around the outside. Can Casper DeCourt hang it through, then get the inside? No, he can't. Great move, slinging it through, holding the inside. Casper DeCourt will look to the outside, try and get a later apex and power through. It could be a drag race up to the line here, but Jason Cooper leads at the moment It's going to be side by side across the line, but I think Jason Cooper will just take race victory. Yes, he does. Great stuff from 5-Star Motorsport, taking the 1-2 with Tom Griffiths. Brilliant drive up through the field into 5th place. Same as well for Adam Delmont, a great measured drive up 15 places for the 777 Excite Racing driver, as Andy McEwen was able to actually hold off the assault from Harley Moss and Adam Delmont to stay inside that top 10. So plenty of excitement in this first race. The drivers now making their way across the line. And Jack, welcome back.
It's a hell of a way to start, isn't it? Absolutely awesome from all of these drivers. The top 10, pretty much top 9, basically, all giving us really good action. Basically slipstreaming, trying to measure each other up. Remember, this is the beginning of 4 races. You don't want to be messing up, do you? Because the reverse grid is coming up. But all the drivers are just about, I think we're waiting on 2 drivers to finish up. One of them, Craig Schill, and Fiona Siddons, the other. And then we can bring you the full rundown and the reverse grid, Ed, because of course, that's supposed to be the easy race. That's supposed to be the calm and collected one, isn't it? Where qualifying dictates the order. Everyone should be around about where they should be. And then all of a sudden, you stick the reverse grid into the mix, and all of a sudden, it all goes haywire, doesn't it? It all goes the other way round, shall we say. But I can tell you, I can confirm that we can bring you the results. So let's run through them for you now. Jason Cooper then confirmed taking the race victory ahead of his 5-Star Motorsport teammate Casper de Court, but only by less than a tenth of a second. Tom Griffiths ended up in 3rd place after the coming together of Luke Cooper and a few other drivers earlier on. Lars Fisher was in 4th, and Michael Seal taking back his 5th place that he earned in qualifying. Adam Shepherd was in 6th with James Clark in 7th. Dave Chapman ended up in 8th with Andy McEwen. Both those drivers actually cracking into the top 10 thanks to, as I said, that contact on the last couple of laps. Harley Moss is in 10th and 2nd place in the Pro-Ams as well. Adam Delmont in 11th place. Ashley Simpson winning the amateurs in the 12th position, with Craig Cockrell in 13th. James McRitchie in 14th. Luke Cooper 15th. Shane Piggott ends up 16th with 17th. Adam McNally and 18th. Adam McHitchinson. And that's not all she wrote, because James Neve was in 19th, Glenn Humberstone in 20th, Adam Thompson in 21st, with Liam Silkston in 22nd, Mark Oliver 23rd, Fiona Siddons ended up in 24th, and the last driver to be on the leading lap. Craig Schill Nick Clibbins was a lap down in 25th, so it was Craig Schill in 26th. Then you have Renato Campana and Simon Robson, a fair old couple of laps down. And then Ryan Main, Liam Stimpson rounds out the top 30. Craig McDonald, Ryan Stewart, and Lee Holmes end up rounding out the 33-car strong grid that we've got here for you this evening. And before we do anything else, Ed, if my memory serves, we go to the spinning wheel.
Yes, we do. So, Jack, I'll let you do the honours, spin the wheel, and tell us who's on reverse grid pole position.
Oh, I will do, and it even has sound effects. Wow. Right, we go full reverse grid, Ed. Full reverse grid. I don't mess around here, do I? I mean, people could have claimed once upon a time when using the random jumper generator that I was fixing it. I used the same spinning wheel as Dan, so no playing here. Full reverse grid, Ed, and that's a very exciting prospect.
We've been missing these full reverse grids, you know. We haven't seen one for a little while, so good to find it back out in force. And, well, what a race that will be. The second race of the evening is set to be a cracker. In fact, actually, let's get up the grid and find out who is on reverse grid pole position if we can, Jack, because, of course, drivers who finish a lap down are still eligible. If you finish 2 laps down or more, no bueno for you. And it's going to be Craig Schill, so in all intents and purposes, a 26 reverse grid means that the 82 WesTech driver will start from pole position. And that means as well, Jason Cooper, on his return after doing so well, going back through and having a brilliant lights to flag victory, pole position, led every single lap. He's not going to have it so easy now, starting all the way back in 26th place. But if you have been enjoying the show here on Absolute Sim Racing, make sure to make sure to stay tuned, because there are more races still to come. Myself and Jack Oliphant are going to go for a short break. We'll be back with plenty more action.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the BSR SIM3D MX5 trophy here at Silverstone. You are in time to catch race number 2 of the evening. Race 1 was an absolute thriller, a brilliant one for me to be back on. But alongside me, Ed May, you can brief us on what we're about to see, Ed, because it could be carnage, it could be a brilliant race, it could be anywhere in between.
Madness. You're going to see madness, everybody. It's going to be brilliant, of course. The last race had its own fair share of excitement, didn't it? Jason Cooper and Casper got battling it out for the race victory on the final lap, with Jason Cooper going out on top. Casper got rounding out the 5-star Motorsport 1-2. Tom Griffiths as well, great drive from him, perfectly showing when you qualify well, but you know your race pace is there, you can get an even better result, and he cracked in to that third place spot following a brilliantly measured drive. So Tom Griffiths, keep your eyes out for him as well. Then obviously Michael Seal winning Pro-Ams. He was always just looking likely to take that, wasn't he, following his excellent qualifying result. Finished in 5th place. Other things to watch out for, though, of course, is going to be Craig Schill starting from pole position. Going to have some drivers nearby. Watch out for Liam Silverstone as well. Excite Racing driver trying to come back from that incident, I think, earlier on in the evening. But here we go. Quick rundown of it's not the grid. Hopefully we can get the grid. Here we go. Craig Schill, Nick Libbins, Fiona Sins, Mark Oliver, Liam Silkstone, Andy Thompson, Glenn Humberston, James Neve, Adam Mitchinson, Adam McNally, 10th place. Shane Pigg 11th, Luke Cooper 12th. 13th, we've got James McRitchie ahead of Craig Cockrell, Ashley Stimpson, Adam Delmont, Harley Moss, Andy McEwen, Dave Chapman and James Clark complete your top 20 with Adam Shepard 21st, Michael Seal 22nd, Lars Fisher 23rd, Tom Griffiths 24th, and there's a very blinking Craig Schill, which could be a worry into turn 1. We've got obviously Casper DeCourt, Jason Cooper, Renato Campana, Simon Robson, Ryan Main, Liam Stimpson, Craig McDonald, Brian Stewart, and Ben Sharp, who was able to make it in time. Rounds out 33 cars on the grid. Ben Sharp, he missed the first race of the evening, but here for the second. Keep your eyes out for the number 24, starting all the way from the back of the grid. But second race is about to get underway here. Nick Clibbins, we're going to follow him because Craig Schill blinking in out is going to be a worry, not only for us to focus on with our cameras, but also for this man, Nick Clibbins, who starts from second place. Good getaway off the line from Craig Schill, who blinks in and out. Still, again, very scary because look at Nick Clibbins. He doesn't know where the car's going to be. Is he going to suddenly go for the apex and find Craig Schill there and have a big incident? What can he do? He's going side by side with a car that's blinking. Fiona Sins carries too much speed into Cops, runs wide, drops back. Craig Schill blinking in and out, and that's a very long vanish from Craig Schill. So what on earth has happened there? Oh, he's my word, Nick Clibbins.
Craig Schill's all the way down in 17th, and that's not just because he's lagged out, it's because I think he pulled over because he was lagging
Glenn
out.
Humberston's involved. Glenn Humberston's had an incident coming through maggots into the hairpin, and he's on the exit. And who's that a collision with? That's Lars Fisher.
It is indeed, and Jason Cooper. Oh, Jason Cooper's about to come through, but still
Jason,
really far
huge
back.
damage.
Dave Chapman as well. Dave Chapman is, you're right, Jason Cooper, Dave Chapman with that damage on as well. So we'll keep an eye on them.
Michael
but right
Seal's
now, we've got to go forward.
well.
We've got to go
so
forward.
many cars with damage. You've got to go forward. We've got to try and figure out what's going on there. As oh, look at the sea. James Neve trying to get through past Nick Clibbins, who was off the circuit on the inside at Luffield. Going through Woodcut now. Shane Biggett battling with Liam Silkstone for second place. There's a 5-star motorsport car that's in the lead of the race, but I don't think is actually leading the race. No, it isn't a Swift Cooper. It's a Swift Cooper car. Why do they look so similar? Andy Thompson is leading the race. For some reason, that looked like a 5-star motorsport car, but it is Andy Thompson who is in the lead of the race. I was wondering what was going on there. Good stuff from Andy, though, so far this race, up 5 places into the lead. Runs very wide, though, early on. I think he's just trying to break the toe to Silkstone and get more of an advantage by running wide. Because he takes an instant point, but that's all he has to worry about. The drivers that have got through the first lap melee somewhat safely. We've got Casper DeCourt, number 5 car, finished second last time out. Able to get through that nice and cleanly. Let's look at James Neve battling with Craig Cockrell. Affords plenty of space to Craig Cockrell, and Craig's going to say thank you very much and snatch back 7th place as a result. But I think, Jack, you might want to have a look at that opening lap incident that saw, well, race 1, race victor, have a lot of damage, and all that was Michael Seal. Was that a tap from behind, perhaps?
Yeah, it
Like
was.
Dave Chapman.
Yeah, I think so.
You see,
If you
Dave
look
actually
at it.
slows down and concedes the position. You can see, actually, yeah, if we follow this a little while longer, Michael Seal, and again, yeah, one car unfortunately caught up Brian Main once more. Sitting duck, Dave Chapman slows down, allows Michael Seal back through, but with a lot of damage, Michael Seal, sadly, I think, comes into the pits.
I can't actually see what happened to Cooper or anybody further back.
Maybe you think, was it at the start of the race? If
Lars Fischer, this is an incident that involved him, and there's obviously a lagging driver behind. But I think Lars actually just gets caught up. Yeah, there he goes.
Oh, Fiona.
Yeah, not ideal for any of the drivers, obviously. It's never ideal to be involved in a crash, but it just looked like a bit of a nothing incident, to be honest, didn't it, Ed? It wasn't really close enough to say there was a move on. It was just an innocent mistake, I think, by Dave Chapman going into the back of Michael Seal, which is a bit of a shame because obviously it's ruined a lot of drivers' races, but at the end of the day, this is racing. It happens. Casper de Court is up 14 places into 11th, fastest lap of the race. All three sectors are the fastest of anyone as well, so Casper de Court really pushing on strong. Craig McDonald's up 18 positions into 13th as well, just behind Casper. Really strong showing from him. Adam McNally's up 7 into 3rd. Shane Piggott, though, is up 9 into 2nd place. Looks very interested in trying to get past Andy Thompson. So Shane Piggott into 2nd. That must mean we've had a couple of changes further back. It was Nicholas Clibbins, I think, was chasing down the first place driver for a long time. But here comes Shane Piggott into the lead of the race. But by how much? Is it going to be a full nose? Is it going to be a full car? That's the question. Into Brooklands and Lovefield, Shane Piggott leads the way, and Adam McNally may take 2nd position away from Andy Thompson. That's going to be the battle as they come round the final corner and go through Woodcut. It's going to be McNally and Thompson over the line for 2nd and 3rd position. Shane Piggott away by half a car length. Nicholas Clibbins interested in this fight as well. Interested in saying hello to the backside of Adam McNally's car and trying to get past Thompson as well. Still going side by side on the outside. Thompson's not going to have the position, and I fear he may even fall back quite far as they go down towards Maggots and Beckett, sorry.
Yeah, this could be a slowdown as well. You can see breaking very wide, going slow is Andy Thompson. I think he's trying to keep it up, and by getting involved in the fight, he's slower through the corners, but those cars around him are also slower through the corners. He might still have been able to serve that slowdown and not lost a position theoretically. Andy Thompson for Cooper, still up the order. Oh, but maybe not for long because there's contact. Oh no, there's a huge cascading incident that follows through. Two Swift Cooper Esports cars having moments in sympathy with one another. That allows James Clark to carve back past. Let's have a look at this replay. Silverstone goes to the inside of Andy Thompson. Overshoots just slightly. Might have been from a little bit too far back, but the gap was there to go for it, in all fairness. And unfortunately, that's had the knock-on effect. Andy Thompson all the way back down now. A driver that was not too long ago in the lead of the race. All the way down now, just outside the top 10. For the drivers involved, we saw Andy McEwen get a little bit of damage to the front of his car. They'll be hoping there's no straight line deficit going on in that camp. As Adam McNally now focuses on Shane Piggott ahead. And is going to try, if he can, to get something good. Struggled a little bit in the first race of the evening, I think it's fair to say. But in this second one, he's shown good turn of pace, up 8 places so far. In behind Shane Piggott. I'm going to see if there's any way through now into Larfield. Focusing on the drive out of the corner rather than the drive in. Which is the way to run that corner, because you've obviously got run through Woodcut, across the close straight, and into Cops.
So as Clibbins tries to hunt down Adam McNally, Shane Piggott, I'd say, with about 2.5 tenths gap, is actually about equal. You can see it visibly in front of you now. The gap between 1st and 2nd and 2nd and 3rd getting very close as McEwen gets overtaken by Craig McDonald on the inside through Cops, and a nice move done by McDonald there. Simpson and Cooper looking very interested in taking McEwen as well. And look at that damage on the front end of that Year 1 car. That is pretty nasty, Ed, and that'll be the reason why we're seeing McEwen go slightly slower, I imagine, especially in a straight line. That won't be doing the aerodynamics any good. And the cars aren't particularly good in aerodynamics anyway, aren't they? Liam Silverstone still going strong after that earlier contact that caused Andy McEwen's damage, unfortunately. Trying to get past Craig Cockrell as James Neve looks up the inside through Brooklands and Luffield, but I'm not entirely sure whether that's going to be able to be pulled off. And indeed, it doesn't. So, front three pulled away slightly, and then you got the likes of Cockrell, Silverstone, James Neve, Casper de Court up 18 positions now in this little battle, followed by Harley Moss, James Clark, and Andy Thompson rounding out your top 10. As it stands, you know it's going to change though, don't you, Ed? It's inevitable, but the reverse grid giving us exactly what we were expecting, really. A frantic opening pace, drivers coming through the field, and basically a race that's not over until it's over.
Yeah, this order is definitely not going to stay this way for long, especially if you can see Silverstone get a slight mistake coming out of Maggots, and now, well, James Neve is hungry, so is Casper de Court. Is he going to look down to the inside into Brooklands? Goes one way, then goes the other. Instead, looking to try and sweep and move around the outside, but James Neve sends one on Silverstone, and Silverstone, unfortunately, might get a taste of his own medicine there as he loops it all around, gets the car straightened out, but loses several places. Unfortunate for Liam, but that's just sometimes what happens when cars race so close together through that just corner where you do have to, if you go for a move, absolutely send it.
Yeah, I'm going to go on board here with Clibbins because he's got the best view in the house for the race lead. And look at the run. He's got the best run in the house through Cops as well as he's trying to get past. And Adam McNally here, side by side, almost. No, Clibbins actually comes out of it. He lifts off, I think, a little bit there, Ed. Maybe playing the long game. There still is 6 minutes to go, essentially, or 5.5 minutes to go, but still, all intents and purposes, a lot of laps to race, isn't there? With Craig Cockrell just getting a bit of a gap between himself and James Neve. Casper de Court up 19 positions into 6th place now. Harley Moss and James Clark doing similar feats, double figures for their positions pushed forward through this race. In fact, Harley Moss looks like he's going to go past on James Clark. In fact, yes, he does, into Brooklands. Harley Moss goes into 7th position.
Yeah, well, what we saw, I think, from Nick Clibbins was a very smart bit of driving. There's no sense sprinting for the feast when you could stumble and get left with scraps. Nick Clibbins wants to put himself in 3rd place and give him the best chance of getting this race victory right at the end, not allowing Craig Cockrell, Casper de Court, the chasing pack, to close in, and instead focusing on that victory come the end of the race. Very smart, because that means he's probably going to go for the moves when he knows that they are on, and that'll work in his favour, I'm sure. Shane Pickett, though, he's doing a brilliant job up in front. His drives out of the corners are so strong. Adam McNally closes in with a slipstream, but doesn't seem able to send a move. The Shane at this moment in time is looking very strong as well for the race victory, but 4 minutes to go. We did see last time more of the action erupted last race in those final 4 minutes. I think we might be seeing a very similar thing there as Piggott runs slightly wide, and McNally's going to go for it down the inside, but has to break that little bit earlier. As a result, Shane Piggott able to sweep through, cut the nose off, and go for the corner, take the apex as he's able to do. Now Clibbins, what can he do? He's trying to find a way around the outside, but again, backs out slightly, keeping that gap to the cars behind at about a second. So he's giving himself breathing space, as well as those two in front, trying to make sure they all focus on the task at hand, which is really at this stage, trying to break away and give yourself as much space in those final few moments. Stop that chasing pack from getting any funny ideas. Craig McDonald, though, just getting past quite nicely, actually, by Luke Cooper, who judged that move down the inside through Cops to perfection. Left just enough space, no more, no less. Holding the inside into Maggots as well. Squeezing slightly on the entry into the corner, but all's fair in love and racing. You can see Ashley Stimpson trying to find a way through. No real way, though, is there at this moment in time, because they're going to go side by side into Brooklands and Luffield.
Yeah, as they go into Luffield, and McDonald's going to try and make some kind of move. Cooper's going to try and make some kind of move, but it's not happening just yet. And it's very important that these guys, at the end of the day, Ed, they're in a pretty good reverse grid position, aren't they? The last thing these guys want to do is end up in the pits, because realistically, all our reverse grid options are double figures or full reverse grid. These guys around that top 10, they can see if it's a short reverse grid, we can see some really strong positions for these guys. And Craig McDonald, Luke Cooper, and Ashley Simpson will all be keen if they get on the front row of a reverse grid. They'll be pretty confident that they can move forward and stay forward as well. So realistically, we're at the end of this race, we're still only halfway through the evening. They'll have been doing plenty long enough to understand that. Fingers crossed they'll have learnt their lessons maybe from other times when they may have fallen over each other and, you know, sort of just get their head down and get on with it. Adam McNally here is under an awful lot of pressure from Nicholas Clibbins, who has been caught by teammate Craig Cockrell and race 1 podium man Casper de Court as well. Shane Piggott, who I remember impressing me a lot in the winter, the BSR Winter Series about 10 months ago, incredibly. He was winning an awful lot of races back then as Nicholas Clibbins goes through on Adam McNally. And to finish my point on Shane Piggott, he was one of my most improved drivers over that winter period. It looks like he's carried that on because he's absolutely flying here. Clibbins through on McNally. Cockrell, the next driver to be lined up by Casper de Court, I fear, before he tries to make any moves on Adam McNally.
Yeah, you can see Adam McNally, though, he's not wanting to go for a move on Clibbins. He knows if he squabbles, if he fights, he loses touch with Shane Piggott and that race victory. So now it's all down to Nick Clibbins. Can he close the gap? You can see Michael C with a lot of damage to the front of his MX5. Carrying on, however. Good drive so far from Michael, even with damage. Could still line up for a potential reverse grid pole position. You never know, stranger things have happened. But look at McNally, what a send that was down the inside. I said, does he want to squabble, does he want to fight? I think that's the answer, he's going for it. But what a brilliant drive back down the inside, Nick Clibbins. He finds the apex, he drives on through, he fights with Adam McNally out to the corner, and as we finally can see the cars, they still are side by side. But the advantage is firmly in the hands of Nick Clibbins and into Cops. Oh, I thought it was going to come across the nose, but there was a little contact. I think that was Adam just saying, I'm still here, don't come across. And Nick realised, backed out of it, but now we are into the final few moments, the final lap. The white flag has been waved. Down the inside goes Adam McNally, trying to take back second place, but around the outside, sweeping through, driving on the exit. What a drive, what a run out of the corner from Nick Clibbins. Is Craig Cockrell going to try and take advantage now as Casper de Court finds a way through and gets the slipstream as well? He does, but can he hold off? Can any of these drivers try a late move? You can see McNally's thinking about it. He's going around to the inside. Does he shut the door into Luffield? Yes, he does. He takes second place. Great move from Adam McNally there at the last gasp moment. Sent it through, stuck it firm. Adam McNally comes through for second place, but Shane Piggott takes the race victory, comes across the line and wins in commanding fashion. Got the gap, held the gap, took the victory. Cracking drive from the 127.
Yeah, Adam McNally sending some major moves into Brooklands and Luffield there to regain that second place. Shane Piggott, a brilliant drive, really did nothing wrong. Once he got into the race lead, he absorbed all the pressure, just kept hitting his apexes and braking zones. We're looking a little bit further back here. This is Ben Sharp, just ahead of Adam Delmont and Lars Fisher. 3 drivers you would fully expect to see right at the front of the field. At the moment, they're fighting over 21st position, which is not what they were hoping for. But again, a reverse grid may come in their favour. The important thing is they're all on the lead lap, and there are plenty of drivers, big names as well, who never got even really going in this race. Michael Seal, Adam Shepherd, Tom Griffiths, Jason Cooper, all drivers who never really even got past the second lap of the race. But it looks like it's Ben Sharp ahead of Adam Delmont and then Lars Fisher. Then we got only one driver waiting to come across the line, Brian Stewart. And as he comes across the line, Ed, I think it's about that time we bring up the race results, but for some reason it's being a touch slow about things.
Well, we can do the reverse grid spinning wheel then instead.
You read my mind. Let's do the reverse grid spinning wheel. And as it pops up on your screen, I need to remember how to work it. And as I remember, let's spin. Ticking
where does it land?
Comes in, and it is 25 reverse grid, which is pretty much exactly what we just saw, isn't it? Because we had a full reverse grid, but only went up to 26. So we're we're basically having the same sort of thing. So the top 25 will be reversed. Remember that number. And I tell you what, Ed, you can take us through the results, remembering the number 25.
Yes, so with that in mind, Shane Piggott will be starting in 25th place for this next race, as long as 25 cars actually are eligible, of course. But what a drive that was from the Shepherd Motors BSR driver, making up 10 places to take race victory ahead of Adam McNally, who had a last lap send on Nick Clibbins, who rounds out the podium. Casper Decourt, 5-Star Motorsport, another strong showing from the driver that finished second in the first race, fourth in the second race. But with that, I think he will be top driver so far this evening. If he can get consistent top 10 finishes, that'll be good for the championship and his hopes. Craig Cockrell finishing in 5th place, first of the Pro-Ams, ahead of James Neve and James Clark, with Harley Moss second in Pro-Am, Liam Silverstone third, rounding out the Pro-Am podium, and Andy Thompson 10th place, rounding out the overall top 10. Luke Cooper in 11th place, ahead of Craig McDonald. We come to Ashley Stimpson, Triple Eight Simtech Pro-Am, wins the AM class ahead of Adam Mitchinson, Dave Chapman, Glenn Humberston, and Craig Schill, 16th, 17th, second and third in the AM class ahead of Andy McEwen, even with damage still coming through in 18th place inside the top 20, ahead of Ryan Main, Mark Oliver, Ben Sharp, Adam Delmont, Lars Fisher, Ryan Stewart, and 25th place. It's actually the only driver eligible, or the last driver eligible for the reverse grid pole position as well. So for all intents and purposes, a full reverse grid. Liam Stimpson will be starting from pole position in the third race of the evening, ahead of Michael Seal, who start 26th, Tom Griffiths 27th, Adam Shepherd 28th, Jason Cooper 29th, Simon Robson rounding out the 30th place, with Renato Campana, James McRitchie, and Fiona Sittons all 13 laps down as well, caught up in that opening lap skirmish, I think. But Jack, it's another full reverse. Yeah, it's another one.
It's another one, isn't it? I've come in, I bought the good stuff. You know, yeah, I just love a reverse grid. And to be honest, I know a lot of drivers out there probably would disagree with me, the likes of everybody who finished 12 laps or more down. But it's another opportunity for them to maybe charge through the field. Maybe they'll change their approach slightly. Having said that, we've been doing BSR for long enough, Ed, to know that it doesn't always work that way, does it? I mean, sometimes you don't get an option. Sometimes a crash is unavoidable. And fingers crossed we don't see any of that in the next one, because really what we want to see is all these drivers flying through the field and keeping their progress and seeing people make up 20-odd positions and catching all the overtakes as it happens. But it also gives drivers like Shane Piggott and Craig Cockrell and Adam McNally and Nick Clibbins all an opportunity to go for those race victories as well, and I'm sure it'll taste very sweet. So we're going to go for a very quick break now, but please do stay tuned, because we're going to be back as soon as possible for more BSR Sim3D MX5 action here on Absolute Sim Racing. Back in a sec. Hello everybody and welcome back to the BSR SIM3D MX5 trophy. We're coming in for only the last 30 seconds of the warm-up, to be honest, but as you can see at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, we went for a 25 reverse grid, which is very exciting indeed. Essentially a full reverse grid, because the driver who was in 25th was a lap down, everybody else was more than a lap down. Ed, who was that person who is going to be on pole position?
Oh God, you put me on the spot here.
I haven't got it in front of me. You've got the sheet.
I do have the sheet, and I will look through the sheet, and they haven't updated the second race.
Good stuff. Well, the grid's about to come up on our screen now.
We'll
anyway.
Find out.
So let's pretend we knew all along, and go through the grid. Ashley Stimpson will be on. No. Ryan Main will be on pole position with Andy McEwen in second place. James Clark in third with Tom Griffiths in fourth. Nick Libbins in fifth with Luke Cooper in sixth. Adam Delmont, Ben Sharp, Lars Fisher and Casper de Court round out the top 10. Adam McNally and Dave Chapman are in 11th and 12th. 13th down sees Jason Cooper, Michael Seal, Andy Thompson, Craig Cockrell, Ashley Stimpson, Craig McDonald, Liam Silkson and James Neve rounding out the top 20. Glenn Humberstone in 21st, Shane Pickett 22nd, Harley Moss 23rd and Craig Shull 24th. Down to 30th position, we can see Liam Simpson 25th, Brian Stewart 26th, Renato Campana in 27th, Mark Oliver in 28th, Fiona Siddons 29th, and Adam McKitchenson in 30th position. And we've lost 3 drivers, so that means it's all she wrote actually, but we can confirm that it will be Ryan Main on pole. So the 2 Year 1 drivers are leading the way into the first corner as the lights come on and the engine notes are rising. Let's have a look and see how Year 1 do going into Cops for the first time here at Silverstone National. It's a good start there made by Ryan Main. James Clark as well in third place. Didn't exactly get off to the worst starts either. However, Andy McEwen comes swiftly across in behind his teammate to try and cover off any attack from the third place driver. James Clark still maintains his third position with Tom Griffiths looking very interested around the outside, now swapping to the inside. Luke Cooper is there, is the MX5 in the way, however, from Griffiths really swapping positions. McEwen overtakes Main into lead of the race with Griffiths, Clark, Sharp and Cooper. Sharp and Cooper side by side, and pretty much everybody else actually is side by side. It almost looks like a formation lap this, as Ryan Main's about to get swallowed into the pack, and we had crashes further down, including James Neve. But it's Andy McEwen who leads the way currently from Ryan Main, but for how much longer? Tom Griffiths on the outside, that's Ben Sharp slicing through the middle of 2 drivers there to take into third position, because he's got an excellent run on Tom Griffiths here. But they all tap Ryan Main, and this could be a huge accident. Ben Sharp's gone off. Luckily, they've all spat off to the outside of the circuit, so there might not be that much damage. But Ben Sharp goes into the pit lane. Liam Cooper and Tom Griffiths are now fighting for second.
Oh, it's all kicked off, hasn't it? A big moment. Luke Cooper now up into second place. Tom Griffiths up in third. But Andy McEwen, a second clear of the field. As they come through Cops, we'll be hoping that these guys behind start to squabble and he can have a nice, easy run to victory. But there's no such thing as an easy run with the victories this season. Every single time drivers have been involved in a race here this evening, they've had to fight very hard for it. And I think Andy will definitely feel that pressure start to mount as Luke Cooper closes in. As Dave Chapman as well. Was he tapped or did he just get on the throttle a little bit earlier? The tyres might still be a bit cool. We'll have a look coming into the corner. So it's just a tap. The car's a little bit squirrely. Comes into the corner. Oh, bumps one car in front, then gets a bump from behind from Andy Thompson, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looked like just a touch of, I wouldn't say brake checking there by the 478 car, but certainly it wasn't expected by Dave Chapman, wasn't it? In fact, actually, the 478 had to come off and hit the brakes because he was going to hit the driver ahead. So it's just one of those. Yeah,
it was Adam McNally and Jason Cooper that kickstarted all of that.
It was just one of those things that happens. Here's race 1 winner, Shane Pickett against Nick Clibbins. And remember, Shane Pickett will have started down in 25th place, so 10 places gained. In fact, I think it was 22nd in the end, actually. For some reason, they didn't do the full 25. But still, he's in 12th now. A really good move up the order. However, Andy McEwen has been swallowed by the pack and is now in 5th place. We will try and catch what on earth happened, because Tom Griffiths is in the lead with Luke Cooper, Lars Fisher, James Cooper, and then Andy McEwen in 5th. Just about holding off Adam McNally at the moment as Tom Griffith goes towards the BRDC Grandstand. He's going to be in the lead of the race with Luke Cooper on the inside of Lars Fischer. Can Lars try and carry the momentum around the outside? No, he runs really deep. Cooper takes that place, and I'll just try and find out what on earth happened to once race leader Andy McEwen.
Yeah, let's try and find out exactly what happened. So, oh, he just gets a little bit loose coming out of Copse. You can just see dips a wheel onto the grass on the exit. Let's have another look at that just quickly. And it's the smallest of mistakes. If he made a bit of a bigger error, that would have actually been a bit easier. But because he only tapped one wheel off, it had a much greater effect on his car, and he's dropped all the way back. Not out of contention for the race victory, but still has definitely been held up, and his chances somewhat scuppered.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen drivers in real life who have done that mistake and ended up in the wall. So I think Andy McEwen can somewhat count as lucky stars that he is actually still in the running for this race. It can be a really nasty incident. I didn't mean to click away from Lars Fischer, trying to make a move on Luke Cooper yet again down into Brooklands, because as we shoot into the apex of the corner, it looks like Fischer trying to go round the outside here of James Cooper. Cooper now trying to hold on. McNally and McEwen just behind. McEwen going a little bit wide. I thought opening the door there for Andy Thomas. But as they come out of the corner, it's still Tom Griffiths leading the way by 0.6 of a second. A positive chasm compared to the gaps that usually are formed here at Silverstone National in the top 10. But it's a good 10-car battle, isn't it, for the race lead here, essentially. All the way down to Craig Cockrell, including a fair few AMs and Pro-Ams involved there as well, Ed. Nice to see them in on the mix.
Yeah, good to see. That's very exciting. There's plenty of drivers, like you say, getting involved, really going for it. As we see Andy McEwen go for it around the outside, but can he stick? He's going to get a good drive out of the corner on account of the wider line, getting on the power nice and early in the wheel tracks of Jason Cooper. Andy McEwen takes back 5th place from Adam McNally, but now needs to set his sights on a very quick Jason Cooper, who, oh my, from miles back.
Well, how on earth
was having to take evasive action, and I mean, I'm amazed that he hasn't collected anyone there, but Andy McEwen took great advantage of that and easily overtook Jason Cooper.
Tell you what, if I ever need to repair a pair of jeans or something, I'm getting Adam McNally to thread my eye of my needle, because that was quite simply sensational stuff for about half a corner. I'm not entirely sure how he managed to get out alive. I'm not entirely sure how Andy McEwen or Cooper got out alive at that one, but they did. So we'll thank our lucky stars and move on, shall we? I will actually want to see if I can get a replay of that at some point. In fact, yeah, I can. Here we go. Adam McNally won't thank me for this one. And now, in fact, that starts a little bit further back, doesn't it? If we just catch the moment. It doesn't really catch it very brilliantly, but still, we saw it live, so who cares?
Yeah, we caught all of that live, but that was, well, that was madness, wasn't it? Just see him send it down the inside from so far back. The awareness from Andy McEwen to realise that was not going to work out well. Backed out of it. Jason Cooper as well. He lost the position in doing so, but that was much better than the alternative, which was getting caught up in all of the mess and fuss that would have surely followed. So, they're still in the battle for the race victory, the race lead that's being held at the moment by Tom Griffiths. Luke Cooper close in behind those, so watch out for the number 6 as he comes into Copse. Where we can see drivers make up a lot of ground, and actually those 5-star motorsport cars have looked very strong all evening long through the area of the circuit. You can see Lars Fischer now having to go defensive though, because Andy McEwen with a great run. Is he going to do it again? Can he sweep around the outside? Lars Fischer very late. Is there going to be contact on the inside? Yes, there is. He has to strap on the brakes to avoid a spin. Andy McEwen, he couldn't react in time, and unfortunately Lars Fischer gets spun around, as does Nick Clibbins, in a completely unrelated incident.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, that one, really, isn't it? Because McEwen, with that sort of wider entry, I think he's been taking tips from Dave Chapman there, because we've seen Chapman doing an awful lot tonight as well. It's a great way of getting a good run, but to be honest, if you have the overspeed, you always have to be aware slightly that there's going to be another driver right in front of you, won't have the overspeed and won't have the specifically the minimum speed on the apex, which is exactly what happened there. McEwen gets into the back of Fischer, and then all of a sudden, that's all she wrote for Fischer.
I think as well, though, actually, it was Fischer getting into the back of another car. Had to tap on the brakes mid-corner. I think that tap of the brakes was actually what caught Andy out, and he couldn't react in time.
We'll have a quick look, shall we? Lars Fischer. Oh, no, if it'll actually come for me. Oh, so I'm going to do the cardinal sin of iRacing broadcasting here, but we're going to go rewind it, slow it right down. So McEwen with that wide line there, Lars Fischer going for the inside. To be fair, there was a gap for the inside, but he's going to have to slam his brakes on.
Then he's going to tap on the brakes a
You're
second
absolutely
time.
Right. You're absolutely right, isn't he? Because he's getting closer, and in
Backs out.
fact, he may have already been touched.
There was, I think it was losing the rear of the car already, and then you can see the brakes come on. If we just go back, you can see there's no contact, but before there is the contact, so he goes down the inside here on Luke Cooper. Bit of contact, the rear of the car's going, it's going. He taps on the brakes, then there's a second bit of contact, and there's nothing really that any of the drivers could have done to avoid that. Maybe it was slightly optimistic from the 107, but there was a gap, and he went for it.
Yeah, I mean, he was very narrow, wasn't he? And you're right, there you could almost see on the replay the hands of the little racing AI driver having to do that correction and moving the steering wheel over, because he was already having to correct a miss sort of calculation, shall we say. Tom Griffiths in the lead of the race then by about 0.6 of a second ahead of Luke Cooper, who's coming under real fire here from McEwen. McEwen couldn't quite get the move done, but now it's Jason Cooper for company, and we know how quick Jason Cooper is. McEwen really needs to use the momentum he has to try and get past the driver, but actually he's going to have to defend it, and that's a huge send up the inside, and we're almost talking McNally levels of send there. Luckily, he just keeps on the brake ahead of Cooper, but the other Cooper comes through, and there we go. Good move by Jason.
That was so smart from Jason. If you see that move again, Jason actually boxes McEwen into the corner. He sends a lot of speed in, but around the outside, gets close to the back of the number 6, and then he's able to seal the deal down the inside. It forces Andy McEwen on the outside through Loughwood, which is the real key overtaking spot. You can see McEwen had to slow down a lot on the way into the corner because he was so close to the rear of Luke Cooper, and that put him out of sync, out of rhythm, and out of position into Loughwood. So good awareness from Jason Cooper, put his car in the right spot to set up the move into the next corner, and now he's going to set his sights on race victory. Just Luke Cooper and Tom Griffiths to go, and Jason could be taking a second race victory of the night, but he won't have any team orders to help him this time. He's going to have to go for it. Is he going to look to the inside into Brooklands? No, he doesn't, because someone else is looking down the inside. It's Luke Cooper for the race victory. Tom Griffiths, he'll have the inside line into Lovefield. There's a gap. There's contact. Oh, and he gets spun around. How has he not been collected there? Luke Cooper almost colliding with Andy McEwen, who had the awareness to go around the outside. But Tom Griffiths, throughout all of that, retains the race lead. Jason Cooper in behind. McEwen, third place once more. It's all starting to kick off now, Jack. We're into the final few moments. It's getting spicy.
It is very spicy indeed, isn't it? I'm talking Vindaloo hot right now. Tom Griffiths. Oh, here goes McEwen on Cooper. That's going to be ambitious, but of course, we all know by now, he's not looking for the overtake into the corner. He's looking for it out. And I think he may have just had to come off the throttle, but I still think he's got a half-decent run. It's not good enough to secure the position outright, but it does mean that he's able to challenge for second place. And I tell you what, you leave the door open if you go into Maggotts and Beckett's that wide, but it does, if it works, give you a brilliant run for a cutback style effect here. And Cooper, as we said before, oh, I thought Cooper was going to go for a move around the outside, which would leave a door open on the inside for a Year 1 car. The Year 1 machine does go for that inside line, but Cooper was well aware of what might happen. Came off the throttle just a touch so he could blend back into the racing line, and he wasn't hung out to dry by Griffiths. Good racing awareness there by Jason Cooper, something we've seen time and time again in this race alone. McEwen taps the brakes so he can make sure he's on the racing line. Last thing you want to do is to be off it through the first corner, through Copse. But there is race-winning pace in that Year 1 machine, but there's also a race-winning track position for Tom Griffiths right now. McEwen goes to that wide line again. He's got a good run. No contact this time between himself and... Was there? I didn't see it. Between himself and Jason Cooper.
Both on the run into the corner, and actually as they were coming out, there was a bit of a wiggle for Andy McEwen as he got into the braking zone. Side-by-side contact. McEwen around the outside, slowed down. Jason Cooper held firm on the inside, was contacted, and actually sent it this time on Tom Griffiths. Wow, what a move from Jason Cooper. Got it done, got it nailed down. That is the drive of a champion. He's got that number one for a reason. This is how he got that number one place in this race. P1 for Jason Cooper, sending it through into Brooklands. Nice and calm and collected. But now we've got Tom Griffiths. It's his turn to try and fight through. 2 laps to go on the clock. Can Jason defend as good as he can attack? He's been withstanding the offensive from Andy McEwen for the past few laps. But now it's a whole different kettle of fish when you got Tom Griffiths behind you, that's for certain. He's so measured, is Tom, with how he approaches these races. You can see he opens the corner up massively, gets a good exit. He's right up behind the rear bumper, almost inside the number 1 MX5 as they come down the club straight. Right into Brooklands and Luffield. Going to go on board with Andy McEwen to see this fight unfold. Hard on the brakes down the inside. Jason Cooper sends it through. Just about gets it stopped in time on the inside line. It's a slower line, but it's the better defensive line, carrying more speed on the apex and then getting over to that right-hand side of the circuit as quickly as possible. Even if you do have to slow down after getting to that point, you're still there and you're still holding on to the lead of the race. As you come across the line to greet the white flag, Tom Griffiths going now for a move into Copse. They're going to go side by side, 2 wide on the final lap, scrapping through Copse, and there's a touch of the grass that slowed down Tom Griffiths. Andy McEwen is going to try and take this all day long. Up towards Maggots now. Crucial braking zone because it sets you up for the club straight. McEwen goes down on the inside. Griffiths concedes position and then looks for the exit. McEwen gets a tap on the bump on the inside, slows him down, and unfortunately loses that position on the cutback. Great positional awareness from Tom Griffiths to go for the cutback so late after the Andy McEwen send. And now I think that little scrap has settled the podium order. Jason Cooper will come through. You say that, yeah, there is a very hungry looking Michael Seal, but they can't do anything through Luffield. So Jason Cooper rounds out through the final corner, just woodcut to go. And he will greet the checkered flag in first place for the second time this evening. Took top honours in the first race and the third race as well, going the way of Jason Cooper. Tom Griffiths, brilliant drive from himself, his second trip to the podium tonight. Wonderful drive. And Andy McEwen, that's his first trip to the podium. Gets his evening back off on the right foot after a very unfortunate second race where he sustained damage. Much better, though, in the third. As we have a look at what something's happened to Liam Silkston.
Yeah, on the last corner of the last lap, that is the opposite of what you want to happen, isn't it? And he just pulls up in the end for some reason, as we're looking at the back end of the BRDC. Not entirely sure why that is, but yeah, a good race by all, I have to say. I wanted to give a shout out throughout the entirety of that race to 4th place man Michael Seal and 5th place man Ashley Stimpson as being AM and Pro-Am drivers in the top 5. But to be honest, the top 3 was so exciting. We couldn't even get close to talking about anybody else, could we? A fantastic race result by all that we saw. There were lots of incidents. There were lots of people who ended up falling down the order. But what we can safely say is that the top 3 did a fantastic job. And I think, actually, before we do the race results, in fact, we'll keep it up on our screen for the moment, but we will go and very quickly do the spinning wheel at the same time. And you can see it in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. I'm just going to spin it now. Keep an eye on, we'll keep it there as well so we can see who we're looking at. I tell you what, Ed. I told you I was going to bring the action. Full reverse grid yet again. I can't even explain how I'm doing it nowadays. But with that being said, remember, it's basically the first person who was on 1 lap down. So it can't be anybody on a 2 laps or more down. We'll read it out in a sec. Jason Cooper wins race 3 of the evening by 0.3 of a second ahead of Tom Griffiths in 2nd place. Andy McEwen was in the lead, then went back down to 4th, and then up to 2nd, up to 3rd. A very hectic race for him, but he'll be pleased with a 3rd. Michael Seal, top Pro-Am, and a very good shout at the podium right at the end. 4th for him. Ashley Stimpson won the AMs. He was overall 5th. Adam Delmont in 6th, Adam McNally in 7th, Shane Piggott ended up in 8th, 9th was Harley Moss, Casper de Court ended up in the top 10. Lars Fisher, after that earlier incident, ended up at 11th. Good recovery from him, with Luke Cooper in 12th, Dave Chapman in 13th, Craig Schill 14th, James Neve in 15th, Liam Stimpson in 16th, Craig Crockwell in 17th, with Nicholas Clibbens in 18th. 19th was Brian Stewart, Ryan Maiden was in the top 20, Craig McDonald in 21st, and then you got Mark Oliver in 22nd, Liam Silkstone in 23rd, even though he stopped pretty much on the line, and then James Clark in 24th will be your pole position man, because he is only 1 lap down. So we've had 26 reverse grid, we've had a 25 reverse grid, now we're having a 24 reverse grid. Andy Thompson was 25th, 6 laps down, with Renato Campana in 26th, 7 laps down. Adam McCutcheon was 27th, 7 laps down, with Glenn Humberstone in 28th and 12 laps down. And I think, oh no, we got 2 more. Fiona Siddons and Ben Sharp, 13 and 14 laps down. So, with James Clark on pole position for race number 4 of the evening, and our 4th and final race, Ed. It's gone by so quickly.
Oh, it is mental. You've come in and dispensed chaos, Jack, I think.
It's my job. It's what I do. What can I say?
I know, you've dispensed absolute chaos here with, essentially, for all intents and purposes, 3 full reverse grids. So, on a track as well, where there's plenty of slipstream, and lends itself to these just wacky moments, these wonderful, but still very much wacky moments, like you as well, actually. Andy McEwen, who said he can't come in for an interview so he can have an impromptu interview, with me reading out his message, which said that he can't come in for an interview because his headset's broken. But expelsive me, that was fun. He's basically been reminded that he can actually drive now, after all, following some unfortunate incidents last time out at Donington Park. He did have a very good race, didn't he, Jack? And shame we can't have a word with Andy, but, well, 3rd place, definitely good for him and his championship hopes.
Yeah, and obviously there's the likes of Jason Cooper as well, and Tom Griffiths, who have done not surprisingly well, but I mean, Jason Cooper came from 12 places down to finish in 1st place, didn't he? So maybe at the end of the evening, the overall evening, we can maybe have a chat to a few of those drivers, even if we can't have a chat to Andy, which is always a bit of a shame. We'll have to get him a new headset. We'll have to get him one sent over, make him buy one so we can have a chat to him. Anyway, we're going to be back in a couple of minutes' time after we load into the new session for our 4th and final race of the evening. So don't go anywhere and keep it pinned to Absolute Sim Racing. Hello everybody and welcome back for the final time here for the BSR SIM3D MX5 Trophy Round 6 here at Silverstone National. We went for a full reverse grid that ended up being about a 24 reverse grid, so still very exciting things to be done here for the fourth race of this evening. Ed, how the devil are you, and are you looking forward to this final race? We can't really predict what's going to happen here. We haven't been able to predict it all night, and that's sort of the magic of BSR.
Yeah, it really is. It's a very exciting air, isn't there, around this Silverstone circuit? And the next race is about to get underway. Another full reverse grid. And another thing as well to think about, Jack, is who's been some of the top drivers this evening. We'd like to do a little thing this season, try and pick out a driver for top driver of the round, best sort of performer or drivers that have impressed us with their moves through the evening. I know we've been singing the praises of a certain Mr. Michael Seal, so he could come through depending on how he does in this next race. And I'm sure you're thinking of many other drivers to keep some praise on, but we do have drivers lining up on the grid, so we'll quickly run through. James Clark, Liam Silverstone, Craig McDonald, Ryan Main, Brian Stewart, Nick Clibbins, Craig Cockrell, Liam Stimson, James Neef, and Craig Schill, who rounds out the top 10 with Dave Chapman, Luke Cooper 11th and 12th. Lars Fisher 13th, ahead of Casper Decourt, Harley Moss, Shane Pigger, Adam McNally, Adam Delmont, Ashley Simpson, Michael Seal, Andy McEwen, Tom Griffiths, Jason Cooper, and Andy Thompson. With Renato Campana, Adam Mitchelson, and Fiona Siddons rounding out the field here, Jack, and we're about to get racing.
We are indeed, as we said, for the final time this evening as well. It's absolutely flown by, but I do remember that it always did used to fly by, considering it's a good 2 hours worth of racing, all sort of action back to back and everything like that. I also remember racing in the BSR once or twice when I stepped off the comms duty, and it was exhausting, almost as exhausting as what we're about to see. James Clark on pole position, the engine notes rise, and they're away, and it's a poorer start, I'd say, for Silverstone. A decent start for James Clark. The three Pro-Ams just behind him, Silverstone, Craig McDonald, and Ryan Main all hoping to get into the lead of this race, but it's going to be Clark who leads the way from Silverstone, who started in second and is second. Craig McDonald holding off the attacks of Ryan Main, who started on the front row of the grid in race number 3, but ended up getting swallowed and spat out, unfortunately, by the rest of the pack. Silverstone and Clark going nice and close together, but they're further back. There's a huge battle, three-way battle between Ryan Main, Stewart, and Clibbins. Clibbins, who's driven pretty well tonight as well. And as you said, we're going to have to think about driver of the day potentially. But a couple of drivers who unfortunately won't be involved in that are probably Fiona Siddons and Renato Campana, who unfortunately have span out early on in this race already. Brian Stewart just holding off the attacks of, just about trying to attack Ryan Main, but it's not going to come his way, although if he sends one up the inside like that, it will go his way. Move out of my way, I'm coming through, says Brian, and then I'm swiftly giving the position back because he's spanned round, and if he doesn't get collected here, it'll be a miracle. He got a tap, but I don't think it's anything worse. He gets back going, and I'll tell you what, he is a very lucky man.
Yes, very lucky Brian Stewart. But he'll be hoping that he was a little bit higher up the order, perhaps, and not having that damage in the first. It's not having that spin in the first place. As James Clark. Now look at the pressure he's under as Liam Silverstone lines up a move down the inside into Maggots. Hard on the brakes, getting it stopped just in time onto the apex. Powers out, trying to hang James Clark out for dry. Has he got the move done though? Can James Clark fight back? Down the hill, down they go into Brooklands. It's going to be a squeeze together, actually. Both the drivers fighting together. Is this going to open up the door for Craig McDonald? Wow, Craig, that was excellent awareness coming through round the outside into the lead of the race.
I'm not entirely sure how on earth he got away with that. How the two drivers on the inside have just allowed a driver all the way around the outside to outbrake them and still make the apex is beyond me, and I'm sure those two probably won't be too impressed with themselves at the end of this one. Clibbins and Main going into the first corner almost side by side, but actually Clibbins just blends in ahead of Ryan Main for the time being anyways. Ryan Main misses the apex somewhat, and this is going to really ruin his run because Stimson is I wouldn't say an aggressive driver, but it's a decisive driver. He's in 6th place at the moment, hoping to get up to 5th, and I think he may well just have that move done and dusted going into Maggot and Beckett. I think as long as he can get his full car ahead of Ryan Main, which he has done, yeah, there we go. You can pretty much confirm that that move is done and dusted. James Clark trying to hold off Silverstone for the second lap. Sorry, no, it's actually holding off Nicholas Clibbins. Clibbins doing very well so far in this race, up 2 positions, hoping to make it 3. Silverstone going a little bit wide of the apex there, but Clibbins around the outside of the first apex gets it tucked in and takes 3rd place away.
Yeah, so James Clark has dropped back a little bit, hasn't he? Not quite. That's where he started this race, and might be getting a little bit frustrated now that he's just been shuffled back through the pack. He's going for quite an early move on the lap into Copse. No way through there just for the moment. Stay behind, and he's at risk now of getting past yet again as Liam Stimpson now fancies a move. Well,
yeah,
this is not going the way that James Clark was really hoping for, but he's going to have to defend to the inside. Maybe a slight look as well on Nick Clibbins. Just a slight look, but nothing actually too serious. As all remain with a lot of damage. Just trying to stay out of the way, I think, more than anything else.
Simpson looking up the inside there in front of the BRDC grandstand. Looks like a good, solid move there by Simpson. He sent a lot of speed in there. He didn't scrub it off at all, did he? And I think it's actually going to be a bit harder than it should have been for Simpson. Little touch on the outside there. He does have the move done, but that was almost very close for going very badly wrong, wasn't it? Where's Cooper in the background? Luke Cooper this time, holding off the attacks of Cockrell, a Simtech racing car, trying to follow suit on Nick Clibbins and trying to get through the order as efficiently as possible. He's up 5 positions. Adam McNally just ahead is up 11 positions, up into 6th place. Cooper goes through on Cockrell. Moss and Chapman are 9th and 10th, looking very interested in behind as well. So it's not quite a 10-way battle for the race lead, but there are little battles all coming up, and it's just unfortunately hitting the outside there. Wills Cockrell. And that's what happens if you hit the curb and you're close to other drivers, isn't it, Ed? You end up getting spat out right where you don't want to be.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it, when you are racing and they're driving somewhere, but they're going through wide. Jason Cooper trying to go around the outside. Oh, Andy McEwen, who breaks latest of the trio, finds his way through and actually holds on. So great stuff from Andy McEwen. Holding on. There's a road cone somewhere on the track, and it might be kicked off by whatever else is going on up front. As we've got Luke Cooper and I think Harley Moss having a coming together. Oh, it is again 2 Swift Cooper Esports drivers.
It was James Clark was the other driver involved.
It was James Clark's evening goes from bad to worse, and Luke Cooper's evening, well, goes from not great to catastrophic.
Yeah, no, it's been the highs and lows of motorsport have been on show for us today, haven't they? Craig McDonald and Silverstone are still side by side, as well as Clibbins getting a really good run out of Maggots and Beckett's and down into the club straight. Silverstone are going to have to be thinking about defending the Excite driver instead of attacking McDonald. Clibbins hunkered up behind. Excite looks, well, just comes off the throttle. We've seen this time and time before, haven't we, Ed? It's not about potentially track position. It's about keeping your head on, driving smart. We're only about just under halfway through this race so far. Last thing you want to do is fall victim to silly decisions. Casper de Court is one of those drivers that really doesn't want to fall victim to silly decisions. He's up 5 places. Andy McEwen's up 14, but Jason Cooper is up 15 and is the driver who's gained the most amount of positions than anyone else out there so far. Really good driving from him as they go towards Copse Corner. You can see Dave Chapman just pitching the car in nicely. Silverstone are going to have to shoot forward because he's really under a massive amount of pressure as he just tries to scare off Nicholas Clibbins. Clibbins having to get out of the way of the Excite driver, and that ruins his braking zone, but it doesn't ruin his exit as he comes out of Maggots or Beckett's. I'm never really sure which one it is on the national circuit, I'll be honest. I think it's Beckett's on the exit. Silverstone looking rather vulnerable.
Yeah, he's definitely looking a little bit under pressure here. Is sweeping around the outside. Nick Clibbins is then going to get the inside into Luffield. Holds nice and strong, keeping a tight line, but there's a good drive coming out of the corner, potentially from Silverstone. No, there is. He gets to the power a little bit too early. Has to back out. Nick Clibbins holding on, getting through into 2nd place, and can set his sights now on Craig McDonald, who's done so well holding on to the lead for this length of time. But I think Nick Clibbins He's going to be hungry. He's going to try and go for it and snatch race victory. It'd be great for Craig McDonald as a Pro-Am driver to get that race victory, but I don't know if that's going to happen when Nick Clemens is racing as quickly as he is at the moment. Oh, very loose out the back for Lars Fischer. You can just see how bad that Astro is in terms of traction and grip. Not like it is on the revamped version of iRacing's Silverstone circuit. Could definitely run a little bit wider there and carry more speed. Nick Clemens carrying plenty of speed down the back straight. Now into Brooklands. Can he carve a way through? Can he find any traction around the outside to get the inside into the next one? No, he can't. Has to back out and all of that squabbling, all of that offline fighting. Well, this brought Silverstone and McNally back into the picture.
I think what's been clear, though, since Clemens has managed to get through is the speed that he has under the car as well, isn't it? I mean, he's been very quick all day, and to be honest, he's probably one of my potential shouts for driver of the day in terms of he's caught my eye time and time again. And again, as you see, there was a good half a second gap between himself and McDonald, and in one corner, he's right on the back end of McDonald yet again, and he's already looking for a race and move. A race-leading move, by the way, into Maggots and Beckett's, but it's not going to happen again. He's going to have to be decisive and efficient here because, as he said, Silverstone's just getting invited into the action more and more, but he looks like he's got the race lead. His nose just ahead of McDonald's as they fly down the club chicane. It's not going to be for long, though, and it's not going to be easy either. He's going to have to carry an awful lot of speed as Silverstone is looking interested. He lets McDonald fire himself into the apex, and in fact, he misses the apex. That's allowed Clemens to get the undercut, but yet again, on the outside of the next corner, Brooklands is always a difficult place to try and nail a move. We've seen it happen plenty of times here. We've also seen it fail plenty of times here this evening. Clemens just ahead of McDonald's, but I tell you what, going into Copsehead, this is going to be very tricky, especially for Clemens on the outside. Touch that Astro and you'll be fired off.
Yeah, well, so will Craig McDonald afford him the space? Can he go through? Clemens sends it around the outside, judges it to perfection, just shy of the Astro, sweeps through. Brilliant move from Nick Clemens. All of a sudden, Craig McDonald can be getting hung out to dry here as Adam McNally finds a way through as well. Down the inside goes Craig McDonald. He gets the apex down nicely as well, powers out of the corner beautifully. This is going to be a coming together potentially on the exit, but no, they sort that out as well. It's down the inside, and McNally will have the advantage, but as long as Craig McDonald can sweep it through around the outside, then get the inside into Luffield, he's going to be able to hold it, but he can't do it. McNally again breaks late, gets it stopped just in time on this occasion. Brilliant move, brilliant awareness from Adam, and now he's going to be the one to come through. He's already made up 15 places. Can he make it 16 and take race victory here? He's right up behind Nick Clemens. Anything's possible.
Yeah, we've seen already this evening that Adam McNally loves a late break, doesn't he, in front of the BRDC. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That one, it certainly did work on Craig McDonald. And you're right, I mean, Clemens, he got into the race late and he was probably thinking, okay, I'm confidently quicker than everybody else as Chapman goes wide on the exit of Copse. Where on earth has he come from, by the way, as well? Chapman and McNally just appeared out of nowhere, it seems, into this fight for the race lead. Oh, and Clemens goes round and collects McNally. McDonald's gifted the race lead, but only for about half a second before Silverstone goes back through. And here comes Dave Chapman. Liam Simpson goes through on McDonald's as well, so Silverstone back into the race lead, but as Chapman looks at the inside, it's only going to be for one straight because Chapman looks like he's got that apex nailed, that overspeed and that position. The race lead goes the way of Dave Chapman. But that was a huge dramatic moment there for our old race leaders, and we're going to try and have a quick look at what exactly happened to the likes of Adam McNally and Liam Clemens. Nick Clemens even. So as we come down into Brooklands, it looks like McNally's half tempted by a move, but then Clemens just loses the car, doesn't he, on exit, and that's really good, especially for McNally, who did nothing wrong there apart from follow a race leader. Ed, going through here, the car can be slightly unsettled, isn't it, depending how you hit the curb. And maybe Clemens just hit it a bit too light. The car looked very loaded on the left-hand side, and the curb broke traction, and that was everything it needed just to go round.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate, but sometimes that's just how things go when you're racing. Andy McEwen down the inside on Casper de Court. Casper's going to look to find a move around the outside if he can go for it to then get the inside into our field. McEwen sends it through the corner, as does, though, Casper de Court. And there's contact up in front. Casper is going to get caught up in the incident. Oh, my word, and so does Andy. The smallest of taps on the rear sends both of them now out of the race. Oh, my word. You can see that happening to Casper on the inside, but I thought Andy was safe. I think so did he, but unfortunately, it was not to be. Andy McEwen out of the running now. I think there could be some rear suspension damage.
Well, let's have a look and see if we can spot. This is just ahead. You can see Casper de Court and Andy McEwen just behind Jason Cooper. And there was contact between, I think that's Stimpson and McDonald, and that just it spat Craig Cooper out. I'll just have one quick look and see if we can find... Yeah, I think this is... Yeah, that was Craig McDonald involved in it, and I think that's the number 3 of Liam Stimpson. In fact, it is, who's still, I think, in 3rd position. So, yeah, really good. And then Andy McEwen, as we said, just pushed by the slightest of margins here. He comes through. And this is the last time we'll have a look at it, because obviously we're getting very close to the end of the race. He tries to go wide, potentially the better thing to do, but he has no chance as the car spits back out on the outside of the circuit and taps him round. So, shooting back to the front of the order, there is Dave Chapman in the lead of the race. Something I was very accustomed to saying all those months ago, Ed. He's back all of a sudden, winning this one, and looks fairly comfortable at the moment.
There he is. It's going very exciting, isn't it, for Dave Chapman? Could be on track to take race victory here this evening. Liam Silverstone, though, credit to him, holding on to 2nd place. Was put up there by the reverse grid, but his pace is such that he's able to stay there as well. Just ahead of the other Liam Stimpson. There's plenty of action still going on, of course. Look at this train of MX5s making their way down the club straight. Got Craig Cockrell just focusing on now, but there's a battle brewing between Michael Seal and James Neve as up in front. James Clark, I think, is trying to find a move on Tom Griffiths.
Yeah, Seal versus Neve here. Neve throwing a good amount of speed around the outside. Seal trying to get to that apex, but just leaving an MX5's gap for Neve to try and attack as well. So Neve might get this. And here comes Shane Piggott, obviously race 2 victor this evening, pushing hard to get back into the foray of maybe top 5. But the checkered flag has come out and we didn't even realise. Dave Chapman takes the checkered flag ahead of Liam Silverstone. Liam Stimpson takes 3rd place as well. So those 2 drivers in 2nd and 3rd Pro-Ams. Lars Fischer in 4th, and Craig Cockrell lands out the top 5. And apologies about that. We didn't even notice that, Ed, did we? Because that one just went by like a click of the fingers.
Yeah, it did go by very, very fast indeed. Wow, wow, wow. A lot of action all of a sudden, all at once. Dave Chapman, though, coming out on top. Having out a very exciting evening, I think it's fair to say, for the Time for Car driver. Definitely has been in the wars a little bit. Had his fair share of incidents, accidents, and excitements as well. Watching now, Dave Chapman, Time for Car. I think every driver, though, has kind of been involved in something one way or the other. There hasn't been one driver that's come out unscathed, I think, from tonight. So that could, of course, shake things up in terms of the championship. But we can run you through the confirmed finishing results. Dave Chapman wins the 4th and final race of the evening ahead of Liam Silverstone, with Liam Stimpson in 3rd place. Silverstone and Stimpson 2nd and 3rd on the road, but 1st and 2nd in their Pro-Am class. Lars Fischer in 4th place, finishing ahead of Craig Cockrell, 5th place, who runs out as well the Pro-Am podium. You got Tom Griffiths in 6th place ahead of James Clark, with Michael Seal 8th, James Neve 9th, Shane Piggott in 10th place ahead of Nick Clemens, Adam Mitchinson, Adam Delmont. Craig Schill wins the AM class in the 4th and final race in 14th place ahead of Adam Allen in 15th. Then you've got 2 more AM drivers, Renato Campana and Fiona Siddons, rounding out the AM class podium, with Harley Moss just behind in 18th place. Jason Cooper 19th, and then you've got non-finishers from here on out: Casper de Court, Andy McEwen, Craig McDonald, Andy Thompson, Brian Stewart, Luke Cooper, Ryan Main, and Ashley Stimpson. Unfortunately, not scoring any points in that final race, especially heartbreaking as well, considering we saw that moment happen to Andy McEwen. Didn't think that was going to be a meatball, but it was just the contact in the wrong place that led to it, unfortunately.
Yeah, indeed, and it has to be said, we very quickly before we go into driver interviews, Ed, we were going to point out a potential driver of the day. Have you got any votes from your perspective?
Well, there have been some very strong performers, haven't there? Of course, you could say Annie McEwen. He's shown a great attitude to fight back through the field. Unfortunately, though, I don't think he's quite up there enough. And I mean, Harley Moss, he's had a good showing again in the Pro-Am class. Once again, putting in some very strong performances. Michael Seal as well. It's difficult to pick one driver that's come out really above the rest because they've all done very good in their own respects. But I think for me, I'm going to have to say Michael Seal.
I would have to tend to agree with you, to be honest, on that one. He qualified in 5th, he came 5th twice, and in that last one, he made up 12 positions to finish 8th. And to be honest, for a Pro-Am driver, or I think he was in the podium positions, all bar one for his category. So, yeah, let's go for Michael Seal for the driver of the day. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who would probably have their own say, but that's fine. Put it in the comments, put it in the YouTube chat. Let us know what your thoughts are. Before we go, though, Ed, I think we've got a few people that maybe we can have a chat to.
Yeah, let us have a look. Who shall we bring in? Let's offer the sounds of us nattering onto them after what has been a very exciting. You know what? Let's bring in first Harley Moss to the comms box and have a word with the Pro-Am driver. Like we had a word with you last time out when you were newly minted as a Pro-Am driver, and where you've adapted so far has been very strong. And actually, you come out of this evening's races provisionally as the 4th best driver and top Pro-Am. You must be very pleased with that.
Well, if I'm honest, I didn't even notice that. I was sort of keeping lookings on the overall Pro-Am standings during like the night as it went on. But I didn't actually look at the weekly standings, if I'm honest. To come out P4, even after that last race, obviously I don't know whether it's updated from that yet, but as of current, P4 overall on top of the Pro-Ams is very, very good.
Yeah, I think it has taken into account that last race, and that was very, very exciting action all throughout the field. We saw you involved in a few instances. We also saw you involved in quite a few exciting moves. Just talk us through what it's like driving at this old Silverstone circuit.
I mean, when we spoke last week, I said I really wasn't looking forward to coming here just because I'd never raced it on iRacing. But after racing it tonight, I think it might have to go up there as one of my most favourite circuits to race on iRacing.
That's good to hear. Yeah, it's very exciting as well watching all of the action unfold. And was there anything that maybe, I don't know, sort of affected how you approached the night? Was there any sort of unexpected surprises, perhaps?
Yeah, the unexpected surprises. I actually put some more practice in than I normally do.
We did say get on, try and practice a bit more. Did that help out?
Yeah, so I did about an hour of practice yesterday, then did one of the races before I went and made dinner and everything with a girlfriend. And then tonight I jumped in the session from about 6:30 and was doing laps there from there and on.
And I was saying, actually, when watching you go through, you've been promoted into Pro-Am. You started the season as an Am driver. You've been promoted to Pro-Am. Maybe if you stick around next season from your performances, you could win the Pro-Am class and be moved up as a pro.
I mean, that's still 6 weeks away before that even could possibly happen. Like I've said, every time we've spoken, I'm taking it week by week, getting the points on the board, making sure I'm finishing 4 races. Like, even after that incident in that last race, there was part of me that said, the car's dead, you're not going to make any positions. Do I just park it? But then I miss out on however many points I did gain from that last race by just getting it to the end. And still ended up making up a few positions because of people ahead having incidents themselves.
Yeah, of course. There is a lot you can gain from just finishing the races. So good to see you're still out there, still trying to go strong. And as well, congratulations, mate, on all your races. Before we say goodbye to you, though, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out here on Absolute Sim Racing?
So Evicted Esports, Sequential SimSport, Evicted Power, the SimSport team with us. Vertigear, they're our chair sponsors. And then just the owner of Sequential, Cody, for painting the schemes like he does every week for us, not only for me but for the entire team. And then just all the team, especially tonight. I've been having the broadcast up on the screen in the background, on my other screen in the background whilst racing, and I've been seeing a lot of people in there from the team coming in and supporting, saying like, "Let's go Harley, let's go Harley Morsel," stuff like that. So they're sort of just each comment gives me an extra 10 horsepower, I think.
Ah, nice. That all adds up. Thank you very much, Harley, and congratulations on being top pro-am of the night.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Certainly will. Thank you, Harley, who now exits the box. And you've got so many drivers lining up to have a word with you, Jack. Do you want to actually have a word, I think, with Michael Seal, who took driver of the round quickly?
We can do indeed, yeah. Let's bring him in. Michael Seal, welcome to the commentary box, and hello from me as well. And I tell you what, driver of the round for you. That must be pretty pleased.
Yeah, that's a great result. It is. After last night's testing, I didn't expect to have the pace tonight, but it's been a hard one for sure.
Well, a hard one. You didn't make it look, put it that way. I mean, you qualified in 5th place. You were the highest placed non-pro, shall we say, by quite some margin. I think the next place pro-am in qualifying was all the way down in 11th or 12th from memory. So you must be getting slightly worried about getting moved up as well. We just spoke to Harley Moss about potentially being moved up the order. You must have similar sort of worries going into the next season.
Yeah, it's to be moving up for me. I don't because like you race the cars around you on track, so it is you score the points of where you finish, not where you finish in class. So it won't affect the way I attack the racing. You always try and win outright.
Well, you're getting closer to winning outright as well, aren't you? In that 3rd race, I believe it was, the one just gone, you were pretty much attempting to, well, you were pretty much there for the taking for 3rd place, weren't you? Right on that last lap, you were trying to push as hard as you can as you caught up the front 3. Was there a sort of an inch of you that maybe just thought, I'm just going to send this as much as possible?
I thought it, and then I looked at the cars around me, and it is everyone on the grid on BSR has got the chance at winning, and there has to be a time where you have to think twice, and points make prizes at the end of the day, and playing it safe at the moment, trying to claw my way back up.
You're absolutely right. Points do make prizes, and I have to say, we're just watching your race start from this one. It didn't seem to go very well, but you still made your way all the way up to 8th place, so you must be pretty pleased. How obviously I haven't been here for a while. How has the BSR been going? Because I know that you sort of became quite involved in running of the BSR. That's when I sort of checked in. How's it been going from an organisational standpoint? How's the championship growing and all that sort of thing?
From a series point of view, it's going from strength to strength. Sam's come on board as one of the admin, and he's managed to get some great partners on board of SIM3D and Go for the Gap, which have offered some fantastic prizes for each classes, and it is a grid and the racing shows for the success of the series. And there's not many series with nearly 40 cars on the grid, all qualifying so close.
Absolutely, I was going to say, and the racing is an absolute spectacle to behold as well. To be honest, it kept me very entertained, and I'm sure it keeps Ed very entertained every single week. Is there anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to, Michael, before we let you go?
It's just a big thank you to all of the partners and what have come on board for BSR, and which carry on supporting us, and Dan and you guys at ASR for putting on a fantastic stream.
Well, I've only been here for 1 week, but I'm just going to take all the credit anyway. Thank you very much, Michael. We'll hope to, well, I'm sure Ed and Dan will probably hope to speak to you next week.
Yep, yeah, I'll chat to you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael, who has just joined us for a quick word and now exits the commentary box. That was very good to have a chat with the driver who took honours and took the driver of the round honours as well. Now, we've got a few drivers coming through, so we'll try and run them all through very quickly. I know Andy's been waiting there patiently for a while, so let's bring him in. Hopefully it's all working. I think we can hear you, Andy. Hello, welcome to the comms box. It's been Very exciting, very busy evening for you. We've seen you involved in a few incidents and quite a few good moves as well.
You always mention the incidents I'm involved in first, though. Could you not mention the amazing save I had in race 3?
You did. So you
I
came
don't
back,
think we
all
saw
right,
that
didn't you?
one. No, I don't think we saw that one. No.
You came back right. It would have been better if you didn't have the incident in the first place, but you did come back very nicely and finish on the podium. I guess that gave you a good bit of a boost for your championship.
Well, it's just nice to be on the podium again. I've forgotten what the podium looked like, to be honest. It's not been a great season so far. It started off all right, but then I've just been an accident magnet, it seems, at every race, and then I've been driving like an idiot as well. So, yeah, quite nice. A circuit that I hate as well. I hate Silverstone with a passion, and I've actually been quite quick. So, yeah, maybe I'm warming to the place.
Yeah, well, you say you hate Silverstone, but I do remember you having pretty decent races here. So maybe it's a track that you don't like, but maybe Silverstone likes you back, and maybe it goes to your car's characteristics. We did see your car going quite nicely through there.
Yeah, I've got a setup which Ben Sharp sort of honed, and it's very oversteery, which is just how I like it. And one of the things I normally hate about Silverstone, because it's got all these really long, tight corners like Beckett's and Luffield, I always suffer with understeer, and I hate understeer. So this setup is just perfect. I can gas it up and sort of slide out the corners. And I noticed I was quicker than people like Jason even through Luffield tonight. So yeah, I probably should thank Ben Sharp for sharing that really loose setup with us all, because it was perfect for tonight, really.
Yeah, and of course, in a week's time, we go to Spielberg. The Red Bull Ring hosts the 7th round. And is that something that you think you could do good at, Red Bull Ring track for you, maybe?
I went quite well there last season until my teammate took me out when I was in the lead. So, if that doesn't happen again, then yeah, maybe. I like slipstreamy tracks. That's definitely a slipstreamy track. So, yeah, hoping that I can keep this momentum going now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you've gotten off to a good start. Your momentum in the past few races actually going well, of course, with a good turn of pace in Donington Park where you got on the front row, Silverstone. You've got a podium. Who knows? Maybe you can go one better and put it on pole. Get race victory at Red Bull Ring.
You see, I don't like starting on pole. I don't like leading, actually. I'd much rather sit in second place until the last corner. So every time I've ever qualified on the front row, I've managed to throw it away within a lap and a half. So I think qualifying about 12th tonight probably did me good, because there wasn't quite so much pressure then. So yeah, if you see me on pole at any point, just know that I'm absolutely bricking it.
Okay, we'll definitely be well aware of that fact. But before we say goodbye to you, mate, lovely to have another chat to you. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out here on the broadcast?
Yeah, actually, I've got a friend of mine that's away on a hen do at the moment down in London. She has absolutely no interest in motorsport and will never watch this broadcast again. But Jen, congratulations. Looking forward to the wedding in January. It was supposed to be in Thailand. It's now actually happening about 5 minutes away from where I live, which is a bonus. So thanks for that. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying yourself in London.
Okay, so what was it? A couple weeks ago, was it last week where you thanked your next door neighbour?
Or apologise to them because I was shouting quite
yeah.
a lot, I think, in frustration. But mind you, there was a bit of shouting in the last race tonight, but I think you probably all saw what happened there.
No, thanks for Jack for helping you out at Alton Park. We'll remember that. I'm sure he'll remember that as well.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, well, and you see, I'm a bit worried he's after my job now because I've heard how well he did. So I'm maybe regretting putting him forward.
I've assured everyone that it'll be good that you're back at Donington. Don't worry, I wasn't trying to steal your job. Blame Jamie. He's the one who's the advocate for trying to get both of us on the broadcast.
Really? Oh, that's it. Okay, I shall have that out with him when I see him.
Exactly. But congratulations on the racing today. It looked really good fun.
It was, yes, and good to have you on board, Jack. I've missed hearing your dulcet tones.
Oh, yes, dulcet they may be. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to, apart from, obviously, the Hindu person, before we let you go?
Well, I'm running out of people now, you see. I've done my dogs, I've done both my snakes, I think, my gecko, so I've run out of pets now. There's quite a big spider in the corner of the room. I'm not keen on spiders, but I don't know, maybe it was my good luck charm tonight. So, yeah, thanks, mate.
Big up the spider. Thanks very much, Andy, and we'll be...
I swear. Very snake that spider before. It might be the same one.
I'm going to start charging it rent, actually. It's been here for a while.
I was going to say, I swear I've heard them shouting that before, but thank you, Andy, for jumping in and having a word.
Cheers, guys. See you next week.
So that was Andy McEwen jumping in for a cheeky little chin wag. And is there anyone else? I think we have time. Do we have time for one more driver just to squeeze on in?
I mean, if you want to have a chat to one more driver, then by all means, you go for it.
Let's see if we can squeeze in Adam McNally, who joins us in the comments box. And Adam, that was a very good evening from you, coming out as the third best driver of the night by my reckoning, and that must do you and your championship a world of good.
I honestly really have no idea how. I mean, race 2, I think it was second place, but the rest of the night, every time I seemed to get in the top 10, I got spun round and put back to like P20 or something happened, and it just didn't seem like that good of a night. But the score third overall, I'm happy with that.
I think it's because you finished in pretty much every single race. And plus, you were king of the Sens into Brooklands. You were really late on the breaks through there. And to be fair, it worked out for you, didn't it?
Yeah, once or twice I did like really overcook it, and I'm so glad Jason seen us coming, because I thought I was just going to send them off the track. And then I saw him turn in, and then he just turned back out, and I knew he'd seen us. But I still couldn't get the car slowed enough to not like run him super wide. So I probably was going to get a penalty because he did lose a place. But I'll take that over killing him.
Yeah, it was definitely exciting to say the least. You sending it into Brooklands, but you were quite strong out there, to be fair. And obviously, in a week's time, we do go to Spielberg, Austria, the Red Bull Ring, another slipstreamy track. Do you reckon you and the Excite boys can pull off another good result?
Well, hopefully, especially with Delmont's pace he had tonight. I mean, pit lane starts and he was getting inside the top 10s, mega pace. But I don't know. I think these slipstreams, I just seem to struggle with a bit pace, and I don't know if I'm braking just a little bit too hard or a little bit late compared to everybody else. But I'm just struggling.
Yeah. So well, it's been good to see you out there. To be fair, racing up at the top, it didn't look like there was any struggling from your end or whatever. So maybe we'll see you might be even stronger next time out. Thank you, Adam. We would love to have a longer chat, but unfortunately, time is
Yeah,
a little
definitely.
bit of a hassle. But if there's anybody you'd like to shout out, mate, feel free.
Just the usual people, you guys for the broadcast, everyone that does all the hard work behind the scenes, and teammates for turning up, and everyone else for making it such a good race.
Well, thank you as well, Adam. You provide us with some excellent racing for me and Jack to shout and scream over.
Right, thank you very much.
And you can blame him for the 4 reverses.
They worked out pretty well for me, to be honest with you. I mean, 17th and that. I did get the second, so
yeah, not
and
too
then
bad.
Nick lost it, and there was nowhere for us to go.
Not too bad, anyways, mate. Have a good one. Take care. It was great having a chat. And with that, Adam McNally now exits the Courage Box. Sadly, we can't have a chance to speak to everyone that was waiting, but hopefully we'll be able to have another word with all the drivers throughout the evening next week when the SIM3D BSR MX5 trophy makes its way down to Austria at the Red Bull Ring for 4 more races of wheel-to-wheel back-to-back MX5 action. I've been Ed May. Joining me in the commentary box, returning once more to BSR, is Jack Oliphant. And Jack, how has it been coming back?
I've thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest. Yeah, it's been really exciting, as it always was in BSR. It's lost none of its charm. Very much looking forward to, if I ever get the opportunity again, to jump on. I am back on my regular Tuesday gig as of the first week of November, which means it may well be a bit of a long time before I'm back on here. But if I ever do get the opportunity, I'll be sure to be jumping on with you. But for now, we're going to say good night. Thank you, everybody, for watching, commenting, liking, subscribing, and doing whatever you wanted to do here on Absolute Sim Racing. If you want to catch more fantastic action, including the BSR, or indeed the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series that me and Ed cover on Absolute Sim Racing on a Thursday night, then all you have to do is click subscribe, and you can watch all of the streams provided by ASR. My name's been Jack Oliphant. Ed May has been joining me alongside me in the virtual commentary box, and we'll see you next time. Good night.